Good morning, Raptors freak Alexios here. Sunday morning, Sunday report. And today is a very important subject in sports. It's becoming a winning franchise and how to build a winning franchise in any sport, not necessarily NBA, in the NHL, MLB, NFL, soccer around the world, whatever it is. We're going to talk about that today. Because as a Raptor fan, somebody who's been there through the whole history of the Raptors, I've seen every single stage of, being a really good franchise like we are now and being a very poorly run franchise. And it really starts at the top, guys. It's like the picture for this stream has Larry Tannenbaum in it. He is one of the owners of the Raptors. He is the chairman of the head of the Raptors ownership. So he, in some ways, is the singular person that is in charge of our checkbook, in charge of our spending money and stuff like that. Now, there's a board in which there's Bell and Rogers people involved, people like Ted Rogers III and stuff like that, and they all vote. But Larry Tannenbaum is like the deciding vote. He's like the middle vote, the one that kind of does really kind of make a lot of the financial decisions and stuff like that. So one of the first places you need to look at is who owns the team. Like, who owns your team? Is it somebody like James Dolan, who is, maybe owning the team for his own vanity, for his own ego and things like that? Because sometimes that is the person who sets the tone for your whole entire team. If you have an owner who has weird goals, like, I don't know what James Dolan's goals are with the Knicks. I mean, he says he wants to win, stuff like that. But sometimes it seems like his own agenda personally gets in the way of them doing good things and stuff like that. So the owner really should be somebody who is ready to spend money, first of all, because to win in any sports, you have to invest. You have to invest in your staff. You have to invest in getting good players. You have to invest in an arena that's good for them to play in the city. So this is important. The owner can be very important for the whole franchise. And if you have bad ownership, that could be the very beginning of what's wrong with your team. That you could have a very poor owner who's not fully committed to actually winning. That's the thing. The owners, the group like we have with Bell and Rogers and Larry Tannenbaum, they have to be committed to wanting us to win. And that this is something that is a difference between the Raptors and the Leafs since Tim Lewicki came to Toronto. This is the thing. The Raptors were underneath the Leafs from 1995 until 2010. Literally, they were in the same company and they were ran by the same people. And the dysfunction of the Leafs kind of bled over to the Raptors. That them being joined at the hip was really not good for our franchise when it was young. That there was a lot of the problems that the Leafs had in their front office were problems that we shared with them because we had the same executives in charge. People like Richard Petty, who was in charge of both teams for a long, long time. What would happen is it's like if you have kids or something like that, if you're not totally equal with how you give them attention or shower on them, like whatever you're giving to them, it's not fair. And that's what was happening with the Raptors for a long, long time. We were second-class citizens in our own building and treated like secondary to the Leafs in all kinds of ways. And then couple in that their dysfunction was affecting our ability to be good. Things like that. That was a problem. So when Tim Lewicki showed up and he separated the two teams, he really, really did. He said, listen, the Leafs, you're great. Your history is awesome. You guys, we'll help you guys, but we need to get the Raptors separate from you. And that's one of the biggest things that I thank Tim Lewicki for, is he separated the Raptors from the Leafs and got them away from the Leafs' dysfunction of their own team. Because it really was hampering and hurting us from 1995 right on up until 2010 for the first 15 years of our franchise. So the thing that Tim Lewicki did was, this is the thing, Tim Lewicki's a brilliant man. He's the kind of guy who can come into a team and assess it and figure out how to fix it and do good things. He said, all right, I'm separating them from the Leafs. I'm gonna get them a new practice facility and set them up with a new team, like with in the development league for the team, and that was the G League 905. That was all put into motion by Tim Lewicki, and Masai Ujiri was hired by Tim Lewicki. And that's the next stage of it. Not only do you have to have a good ownership, an ownership that has a real commitment to winning, and that means opening the pocketbook and spending money. To spend money, you to make money, you got to spend money. And the ownership group of the Raptors is smart. They realize how much their return has been since we won a championship. We've seen how much the team has gone up in value. We've seen how much more they've made money because of this. This is the same thing that Dr. Jerry Buss did in the early 80s with the Lakers. The Lakers were losing money. They were in trouble of folding, and he won championships, and it turned everything around, made them one of the most valuable sports franchises in the world because they started winning. And they did that by investing in it. But Jerry Buss had to spend some money in the early 80s to get the right free agents and the people, the coaching staff, the people around Magic so that they could win. And that's the same kind of thing, the same kind of commitment that Larry Tannenbaum has here in Toronto, is that he will open up the coffers. He will open that and write the checks. And that's important for an owner to be committed to winning, because that's the way it will stop. On a lot of teams, the owner isn't as committed to winning as we think. They won't spend that much. They're being cheap. They're being kind of like, I don't really want to spend this much money on this player or something like that. Meanwhile, we're ready to pay. And that's good because that allows us the freedom at all the other levels below the ownership to really have to chase titles and stuff like that. That can be what hampers it. Like the Leafs, in some ways, they didn't really weren't serious about getting Stanley Cups. They wanted them. They're acting like it. They lip service and stuff like that, but they really didn't. Like I said, they got the money anyway. The business model is great for the Leafs. They get paid and make money no matter what. It doesn't matter if they win or not. And that they got really like resting on the laurels and just spinning in the same spot for over and over again because of this and stuff like that. You don't want to get in that either. So Lewicki getting Masai to come in and hiring him and saying, this is our guy, he's going to be in charge, was a big deal. Because that's the other thing. This is really important for a sports franchise to not be a dumpster fire. You need to have clearly defined roles with everybody who's involved, whether the owner is the owner is the person who owns the team, the person that pays the checks, that writes the checks, and that's it. They shouldn't be involved in decision-making about personnel, James Dolan. They shouldn't be involved in coaching personnel issues, anything, nothing. They should be not involved in anything other than paying people and giving them checks and making money. That's all the owners should be involved in. And that when you have somebody that's a figurehead, somebody who's in charge of the whole franchise, and they know this is the man who's steering the ship, this is the man who's in charge, that's really good for a franchise. Because sometimes there's little power struggles in franchises, whether it's between a GM or a head coach, whether it's between a GM and an owner, whether it's between an owner and a coach, whether it's between a GM and a player, whether it's, whatever. You can get these divisions and these fissures on teams. And sometimes it's because people are overstepping their roles, that they shouldn't be doing something that they're doing, as far as like trying to be the GM when they're not the GM, trying to be the coach when they're not being the coach, or whatever. It could be LeBron, the player, trying to be the GM. It could be any of that kind of stuff. That's dysfunctional. That will cause problems because you have too many people pulling the team in different directions and the way they see it and the way they want it. So it's really, really important to have one person who has a vision, one person who's steering the ship, one person who's in charge, one person who's the end of the line, the end all, say all, be all. And that's Masai Ujiri for the Raptors. Not every franchise has this. And part of it is a very dangerous, tough spot to be in, because it only works if you're successful. If you're at that top spot and you're responsible for everything and you are failing, then you get all the blame. So it's very, very tough place to be and be successful and stuff like that. There's all kinds of pitfalls and all kinds of ways you can fall and stuff like that. So that's the thing. Teams like the Maple Leafs want to get a Masai Ujiri. They want somebody that'll come in and just be so good at their job and just have really good success and good things happen right away. But they're so hard to find. And there may not be very many of them out there in different sports and stuff like that. So that is really, if I was owner of a team, I would be looking for a Masai Ujiri. I would be looking for someone who is really in tune with the sport and the trends of it, the future of it, and has a vision, and they'll stick to it. They can't be somebody who's wishy-washy, who changes their mind. Like every year or every couple months. There's like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done this. Maybe we should have done that. They need to be very, very certain that they have a plan, they have a vision, and they want to execute it. Because if they don't execute it or they don't do it, and they're changing it all the time, it causes chaos. You don't build a team that has a reasoning to it. Like, why did you do this? You have to really have a clear plan and a clear understanding of what you're working towards with every little transaction that you make. The GM really has to be building blocks that fit together. That if they don't fit together, then what are you doing? This was the problem with Brian Colangelo when he was the GM of the Raptors. He was picking guys. Sometimes when you draft guys, you don't just pick the very best player that you can get. You do need to look at what your team needs and how it fits with the team that you have. You know, there's some teams that will draft the same position 3 years in a row in their draft. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Now you have this overabundance of this one position. Oh, it's because we got the best player available. Well, now you have 3 point guards that are fighting for time, and there's internal conflict because these guys are competing and they know there's not enough time. And you set yourself up for that problem because of the way you drafted. So you really do need a clear vision and a clear plan to what you're building with your team. That your GM is taking each step, each opportunity, whether it's the draft, free agency, whatever opportunity, and they all go together with one singular big picture. And that's the problem with a lot of teams, is that they don't have a clear vision or idea of what they really want to do. They're half-assing it. They go to the draft, they pick the best player, they throw a collection of guys on the court, and they just hope that it works out. That they really don't have any kind of like rhyme or reason to why they built the team that way. It's just they went and got talented guys and put them all together. I think of like Orlando like this. I think of the Kings like this. Like, why the fuck are they building these teams like this? I don't get it. Oklahoma City's another one. There's no rhyme or reason to what Oklahoma City's doing with their drafting. There really isn't, to me, and stuff like that. So that's really important. And it's really good if your GM can have the same vision as your coach, because your coach is the one who has to instill it and put it out there and make it reality with the team. And if they're not at the same place with the same kind of idea of what the team should look like or what it should be doing, that's a huge problem too. So it's really about having clearly defined roles, clearly defined responsibilities, and staying out of each other's business, letting each other operate in their job description. And then also having a similar all around vision together that you work all towards together. The Raptors are a perfect example of doing this all very correctly over the last 12 years. That really, since Masai arrived in Toronto, he has been building in a very certain specific way. And it has been helping to, instead of like what teams do is they call it a rebuild or something like that. They slash and burn everything down and start all over again. Well, we never actually ever do that. You know, even when we sent DeMar to San Antonio for Kawhi, even when we fired Casey and hired Nick Nurse, there was all a rhyme or a reason that was adding on top of what we already built. That it wasn't just like tear it all down and start over. Because that's what a lot of teams do. And maybe it's because they're so horrible, they have to do it that way, where they have to completely tear everything down and do it that way. So it's really important that you have a shared vision among every single department. And it goes all the way down to the players. It goes all the way down to the support staff, everybody. Because when you do have a shared vision and a shared kind of identity and a shared like plan for what you want to accomplish as a team, you can really micromanage in good ways. Like, say you got Jim Lee, you got the strength and conditioning coach for the Raptors. Well, he knows what the Raptors are trying to do with their 6'9" vision, trying to get guys stronger. He can specialize his training program for specific players on the team, whether it's Scotty or Pascal or Fred, and give them the kind of exact program to help them that goes within the puzzle pieces of the whole grand scheme. That's what I'm saying. A specialized training program, whether it's nutrition, whether it's strength training to get more muscle, whatever it is, they have a whole big idea what they want to do. Then people inside of it within their own roles can figure out how to fit it even better. People like Chris Boucher, who decided this year that this is the kind of role that he needs to be now off the bench, an energy rebounder, defender kind of guy. And that's the thing. He sees the shared whole vision. And he said, well, how can I make it better for the team? It's like Fred. Fred said, oh, wait, I can make this vision for this team better by playing off the ball now and maybe not being the point guard as much this year. That's what I'm saying. When there's a shared vision, everybody can see it. Everybody can kind of understand what they're working towards. Everybody can do their own little thing on their own and make progress towards the bigger whole sum of things and stuff like that. And it's really important. There's all kinds of different ways you can get sidetracked. Like a big factor in the health of a franchise is toxicity. That there's toxicity all around in sports, whether it has to do with the press, whether it has to do with the players, whether it has to do with the fans, whether it has to do with conflict on your team, whatever it is. You want to minimize toxicity on your team. You want guys to feel good about playing with each other. You don't want a rivalry that's too crazy between players. You want healthy competitiveness, but you don't want two players on your team that don't like each other and don't get along and don't want to play together. You don't want a coach that doesn't like one of the players and the player doesn't like him and they're feuding. You don't want the GM to have a problem with the player because they're sitting out for a whole year and they refuse to play or whatever. You don't want any of this kind of garbage. Any kind of level of conflict or things like this can be somewhat avoided by having certain team rules, by having a certain kind of way that your whole franchise carries itself and the way they deal with things. Like the Raptors draft and acquire players with character. That this is a big deal. That in some ways, this is the part of the reason why we're so healthy and not having a lot of toxicity, is that we won't go for the ultimate best talent because sometimes that comes with a lot of toxicity. And that's the thing I'm talking about with the dumpster fire rankings and all these big, huge players that have huge contracts that are albatrosses right now, like Russell Westbrook and Kyrie Irving. People that nobody really want. They want, but they don't want because there's a certain level of good and bad that comes with them and stuff like that. So you want to minimize that kind of toxicity. I really love hearing what Nick Nurse has said recently about the things they do in-house to keep this on the down. Like they don't react after a loss. They shut up and they go home and they dwell on it and they think about it to themselves. They don't share it together and make it even more big and stuff like that. This is really smart. This is a really smart way that the Raptors have limited toxicity and negativity and bad emotion from losing and not having success and getting over it and moving forward in the most positive, best way to move forward. You could tell that they were doing this because the Raptors have a certain way of dealing with losses. And it's a healthy way because it's not that they accept them and they like them. It's just that they deal with them in a very healthy way so that they're not overreacting. They come in, they want the next chance to make up for it. And that's important. And then there's other things like rules with the press. Another way you can cause a lot of toxicity is by getting the press involved in all kinds of different ways. Whether you're being a knucklehead and you get caught with marijuana in Kentucky, whether you're infighting with people, whether you say a comment that gets misconstrued and it gets blown up real big all over the place, whatever it is, the Raptors as a franchise have a very, very tight-lipped MO, the way they deal with anything front office. You don't hear any leaks. You don't hear, the players are in on this too. This is what I'm going to say right now is that this is actually what I should talk about first. Another way to avoid toxicity and problems is having good, honest communication with your people, is not keeping them in the dark. There's so many teams in sports that do not talk to their players, that do keep them kind of in a weird position of like, I'm uncertain about my role on this team. I'm uncertain about my place. I don't know what's going to happen. And that's stressful. That's not easy for athletes to work under. But sometimes the team does it on purpose because they feel like it gets competitiveness and better out of their players by having them a little scared. Employers do this to employees at work. They'll make them kind of a little uncertain about their role or their place in the company just to see if they can get more out of them. It's very toxic in a lot of ways because it makes more mistrust. It makes players feel like they can't trust the team they play for. And then you have all kinds of issues with that. I really love the Raptors' approach of being up front and communicating very closely and directly with the players. We've seen Kyle talk to Vince this week about how the Raptors talked to him about his last year with Toronto and how they honored him, allowing him to stay with the team for the rest of the season so he could play it out with his boys. And that was really important to him. That's all communication. That they were able to finesse and make the Kyle Lowry trade and the way it all happened in the very best way because they were absolutely honest and working together with Kyle. And that's a really good way to deal with your players. There's a reason why Scotty Barnes isn't flipping out and pulling his hair out because he's worried about getting traded for Kevin Durant, because they've assured him that this is not going to happen. They've had open conversations with him and told him, this is exactly how it's going to work, Scotty. And this is what you should and shouldn't be worried about. And he's not worried. I liken that all to just having very honest, open relations between the coach, the GM, and the players. And that's so important in today's NBA, in today's sports, that you can start all kinds of dumpster fires on your team just by not communicating with your players and your personnel well enough. That there's a communication disconnect between the coach and the front office. That's a problem. Things like that and stuff like that. So, all right, let me see. I just went off. I know you guys wrote a whole bunch in here. I just want to make sure I went over the general idea of what I'm talking about. We can fine tune and talk even more specific stuff about this on this topic. But it's a really big deal to me because really it's true. The Raptors have gone through the whole gamut. We've been that 20-win expansion team that is just like figuring itself out and getting its legs. We've been this team that's had early success and flashy players and good things happen. And then it all goes away and then we're back to shit, And then we've seen now how you build a team and a culture around a team that sustains itself and that isn't completely, totally reliant on who is there. That Kyle and DeMar, what they did was they built a culture for the Raptors. And it has stayed since they left. And that's really important. That's an important another part. The next stage to being a successful franchise is you need a culture. You need a culture that respects the team, the city, and everything about it. That we didn't have a culture that respected that when Vince was here. We didn't have a culture that respected that when Chris was here, Chris Bosh. That those eras on the down low, our superstar played for us, and they're getting checks. They're playing in the NBA. They're on TV. It's a big deal. But they never really respected the culture of the team. They never really respected being a Raptor in some ways. That it was just that there was a uniform and just showing up. I mean, Vince, we've talked about it, is really, he talked about it with Kyle on his interview with him, that they have a fraternity of golf NBA buddies. And then, like I said, in some ways, the fraternity of the golf buddies, the NBA buddies for Vince was more important than the fraternity of his teammates on the Raptors and stuff like that. He was more an NBA citizen that respected the NBA on the whole more than he respected the team that he was on and stuff like that. That's what I'm saying. So the culture has to be respect for the team, and that they have to have an honor and feel privileged to play for the team. That it means something. It means something to play for the Lakers. It means something to play for the Bulls. It means something to play for the Celtics. Well, it means something to play for the Raptors now. That is something, it's like, that's prestigious. That's like, you're in an organization that's well run. There's a culture. They want to win. It's all this kind of stuff. That's so important to building a good, positive, healthy franchise and running a really good ship and stuff like that. All right, Monty's here. He wanted to get in first. All right, let me see what's saying. You guys are saying here. Tom Duke's saying go Raptors. He's got his starting five lineup. Shane Waters has got some hot peppers. He's got some dinosaurs out there too. Monique is here. Good morning, Monique. Good to see you. Good morning. Joseph Starks. Good morning, Raptors Nation. Joseph Starks saying what's up. David S. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you too, David. Joseph Starks saying, is it just me or does Gabe Brown look better than Ron Harper Jr.? Well, first of all, they're different players. They're different kinds of players. Like Ron Harper Jr. is much more offensively refined. Like he has more of a better shot than Gabe Brown, stuff like that. I haven't seen enough of Gabe Brown. To me right now, he looks like just a very good athlete and very good, like maybe slasher score, but I haven't seen him shoot a whole lot yet. So I don't know. I can't make an assessment on this. And plus, they're not really kind of like in competition with each other at this point. In fact, they're going to be very much teammates this year. And that's going to be a lot of fun to see how they're playing off each other. Because like Gabe's not going to make the team. Ron Harper will definitely be on both squads, like because of a two-way. He's going to be switching back and forth. But Gabe is not going to be on the Raptors. He's going to be only on the 905. So Ron will be playing with him there a lot. So let's see. David's saying, personally, I don't find Ron Harper Jr. looks that good. So yeah, I would say so. So he agrees with him about Gabe Brown. I've seen a little bit of Ron's clips. and stuff recently, the stuff from Rico Hines and different things like that. We really got to see him. Let's give him a chance. This is really early on. He didn't look totally good in summer league. Yeah, that's true. But there's certain skills and certain things I've heard, like he totally dominated the practice against the Pelicans at summer league, and we just haven't seen it in the real situations on the court either at any level yet. But there's something about him. There is something about him. Like Monique posted his highlights from Rutgers recently, and that's what I'm saying. There's some real clutch in him. There's some big gameness in him. And that's what we got to see what it happens. But, in some ways, it's like, once again, this is apples and oranges. I don't really feel like comparing the players unless they're in a positional battle and they're actually trying to fight for either getting on the team or getting minutes. Then it's kind of assessing. But these guys aren't in competition with each other. These guys are going to be very, very good teammates, and they're going to have to really work together. Monique likes my topic today. Yeah, I figure I made the dumpster fire rankings. I might as well show how not to be high on the dumpster fire rankings and stuff like that. Tom Duke saying Conn Smythe was the founder owner of the Leafs from you said 27. It was 1927 and 1960. What a guy. He got a lot done, was a player first, and then did things like build the gardens. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You need somebody like that, somebody who's a figurehead, somebody who's in charge, somebody who really cares, somebody who has a good idea and a good vision, and also gets the chance to implement it and really try and make it work. That's the thing. Like the Leafs can get different figureheads in over the last 20 years, and each of them try, and they get to different levels of success. But they really, really do need a Masai Ujiri. That's what every team needs. Like if this was like a tabletop RPG card game, like Magic the Gathering or something like that, you get that Masai Ujiri rare card in your deck and you can play it, because it comes with extras like, all right, charismatic, really, really good at negotiating, has this extra bonus for scouting towards the whole continent of Africa. These are really good bonus things that come with Masai and what he does. That he's a master scout. He has made scouting such a huge important part of the Raptors and their strength. And that it's translated over time. The scouting has bled and made in like the personnel, the team, the making something out of nothing with guys like Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam. These guys just came out of nowhere and they're huge. That's what I'm saying. Like you need a leader that has some good strengths in different ways to help you and do different things and stuff like that. If you don't have that, it's harder to do that. Conn Smythe was that for the Leafs way, way back. And they're all their success in their franchise history way, way back. They need somebody else. They need somebody new that's like that. So who knows, Tom? It's going to be 2027 soon. Maybe they get it every 100 years. Maybe the Leafs will finally get the next guy like that in the next 5 years or so. We'll see. Joseph Stark saying Harper lacks explosiveness. Unfortunately, Gabe has that plus some shooting ability, and he's left-handed. Yeah, I would say that Gabe Brown's very explosive from what I've seen. Once again, we haven't seen the best of Ron Harper yet, or anything like really that good from him completely. He will impress us, and he will show us some stuff. I don't want to get down on these guys before they even have a chance to really prove themselves or do anything. They haven't even started yet. So there's no reason to really be negative about Ron Harper at this point. We got to see how he does and see what he does. Duke's saying that was the narrative when Harold Ballard owned the Leafs. They knew the Leafs would always sell out games. They could be cheap and it wouldn't matter. So that's the thing. And also Duke's saying, I don't think that the narrative with the Leafs is now, though. They are trying hard to win. Yeah, I think this is true, too. That it was that way for a long time. And this is similar to like the Sixers process, like losing on purpose. It makes it hard to switch out of that gear and get back into winning ways because you're so used to losing on purpose. Well, the Leafs, if they weren't serious about winning for a long time, they're just trying to make money. It takes a little while to switch those gears out of there and try and make it real. And it could be that they're in a cycle that is like that, perpetuating because they're so used to being like that and operating. Well, we're making a profit, but we don't really care about winning. And what Duke's saying with Harold Ballard, that this was a big part of it. And I know that when I was working there in the early 2000s, when Matt Sundin was the center and the captain of the Leafs, that they were trying and they were trying to break out of it, but there were old habits that die hard within the franchise, old bad habits, old bad ways of things. In fact, tradition can be really bad for teams. The tradition of the Celtics, the tradition of the Knicks, the tradition of the Yankees, the tradition of the Maple Leafs. These teams get messed up by their own damn tradition sometimes. And that the longer you have a franchise, the more prestigious it is, the more people want to influence it or be cooks in the kitchen. And that's why you really, really need a Masai Ujiri, because you may have like 2 or 3 people that have egos and they're trying to make their imprint on the team and they're struggling against each other. Like this is a part of the thing that's going on with the Lakers the last couple of years. Dr. Jerry Buss was Masai Ujiri for the longest time. He was in charge. He was saying, and that's why the Lakers were ran pretty damn good from when he's bottom in the 80s right into like the 90s or so, right into Shaq and Kobe. I mean, there was a little dead period between Magic leaving and Shaq and Kobe showing up on the Lakers. It was bad. But then they got their next grace period, and then Dr. Buss died. And ever since Dr. Buss has died with the Lakers, there's been a power struggle at the top. It should really be Jeannie's show. She's the daughter of Dr. Buss. She's in charge of that team. But there's people that don't fully respect her in the Lakers, and they kind of is a push-pull and a little bit of like not so I'm in charge and this is our vision, this is what we're doing. And that's a big part of the problem with the Lakers. In some ways, it's Jeannie, Rob Pelinka, and LBJ. That's the powers pulling in different directions. And that's why they can't get anything done correctly right now, is that there's too many cooks in the kitchen. You really need to have that one figurehead, the end all be all, the buck stops here kind of person on your team. And that's what they lack in LA right now. I could go through all these different franchises and tell them exactly where they're fucking up, and stuff like that. But all right, let's keep going. But this is true. The Leafs are like the Sixers in the way that they did this for so long. It's so hard to just change and get that momentum going in a different way. That they sat in that spot, just like, oh, we'll collect the money. We don't care about winning. They're going to come anyway. Well, now we want to change that. Well, it's not so hard to get that inertia going because you've already been doing it that way and stuff like that. So let's see. Joseph Stark saying, ironically, Raptors GMs still say we select the best player available. Well, they say that and everybody says that, but it doesn't necessarily mean the best player, like talent wise, the best player available to our needs, the best player available for what we wanted, stuff like that. I think with Scotty is really a brilliant pick at the 4th, is that was the best player available. And they really knew that. In fact, in the years to come, they're going to wish that Scotty, people are going to wish that they picked him number 1. Orlando's going to wish, or not Orlando, whoever they picked first in the draft last year, when Scotty was in the draft, they're going to wish they picked Scotty. I'm serious, in the years to come. Cade Cunningham, I don't know who was picked first. Was Cade Cunningham picked first? I don't give a shit. I don't even care which one of those other guys was picked first. They're going to wish that they picked Scotty, that he's going to look like the best player in the future. Monty is saying the idea is to draft the best player available because you can trade him for more later, except they don't trade them. Yeah. And then they get positional battles. It's like Kyle Lowry talking to Vince. It's like when they drafted Mike Conley in Memphis, the writing was on the wall for Kyle. It's like, well, I can't really be here anymore. So that's why you got to really look at what you drafted the last couple of years and do the puzzle pieces fit? Or is you getting a little bit too much this is too similar to the guy we just got last year? What are we doing? That's a bad GM when they draft too closely to who they drafted just before. I really believe that they should be spreading it out and they should be trying to build a nucleus within a certain amount of time, a young core. Well, you can't have the same piece, 2 pieces that are the same piece in the young core. It doesn't work. It's like the vision in Minnesota right now is Twin Towers. They have 2 of the very best centers in the league now. But is this vision going to work? We don't know that. We don't know if Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns are going to be a good fit together. We're going to have to see it in motion and see what happens. But this is the vision that they're going with, but we don't know if it's going to be successful or not. It could be a huge fucking fail. And now they're stuck with no picks, and they got this huge albatross of a contract around them in their salary cap. So, yeah, that's a gamble that Minnesota took, seriously. But you can make your franchise kind of make sense. And like if you look at the analytics, you look at the way that the sport is trending, you see the kind of things that are happening with the athleticism, the cutting edge of things like the Raptors. I really do believe the 6'9" vision is the smart kind of vision for the future. That the players are getting bigger and stronger, and that's why we're doing this. And Cleveland has a similar vision to what they're doing, like compared to us. They're Tower City. They're doing what we're doing, except with 7-footers. We're Vision 6'9", their Vision 7 foot. But their competing vision with our vision is going to be interesting. Is to me, their vision is going to be slow. Their vision isn't in the middle. Like I've used the example before, is like in video games with Mario Kart and Mario games. Mario's the average. Mario's the average character. He jumps and runs and does everything right in the middle. You got Luigi, he can jump really high, but he's not. He doesn't do this. You got Toad, who's really strong. He can pull, but he's slow. And then you got the princess who can fly or whatever. But Mario's the average, and the Raptors 6'9" vision is more the average, and the Tower City in Cleveland is more like a Luigi, a little bit higher. Now, which one of those team visions is going to be more successful? We'll have to see. Because I feel like the Raptors being a little bit smaller, a little bit more versatile, maybe a little bit more in the middle, then they're a little skewed higher and slower and bigger. That's the interesting thing. Teams have visions and they try and build them, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. And the reason why the Raptors vision is really good is because it's based on science. It's based on really thinking deep about where the game is going in the future and how to really ride that wave as being the team on the very edge on the surfboard and not behind, still paddling on the surfboard. We got to be up on that wave ahead of them and riding it ahead of them before them. And that's what's happening with our Raptors right now. Is Vision 6'9" is a real thing. And it's becoming more and more into fruition. It's something we started putting the seeds for years ago. This isn't something that's that new. This is something that we've been kind of building for 4 or 5 years on the down low and stuff like that. Like when OG and Pascal and people like that started showing up, and we started getting more of that kind of player, the wings with all the athleticism and stuff. That's really when we started building it like that and stuff like that. So. All right, let's keep going. Monique saying, don't tell me that about Ron, guys. See, Monique doesn't want the negativity either. We got to give him a chance. He hasn't even played in the NBA or the G League yet. We got to see what he does. Monty saying, Harper looks lethargic, always looks tired, in my opinion. Well, who knows? I don't, like I said, I don't want to speculate. And we're not here. We're positive Raptor fans. This is a new young player that we just got. We got to give him a chance. Is what I'll say. Joseph Starks is saying best player available may actually mean we take the best player on our board available, not best player overall available. Yeah, I think this is right. Like Joseph's saying is exactly right, that there may be players we just overlook because we're not even interested in them. Maybe we did our due diligence with scouting and we realized that they're not a culture fit. We realized maybe they're not a positional fit for what we want to do. And that's the kind of thing. It is that statement, best player available, could mean a lot of different things to different teams. Our board could be totally different than the rest of the leagues as far as draft boards. It has been in the past. We know it has and stuff, but this is part of it too, is to get a good franchise, you need to build it correctly. You really need to make smart decisions and not just frivolously draft. Like, oh, this is who Sporting News says is the number 13th best player, and we're at number 13. He's still there. Let's just draft him. Really do your homework, really understand, like get in depth, like the stuff with Scotty and how long they've been watching him and understanding him. It makes me realize that Masai and Bobby have some sort of board in their office that has all the young prospects in the world on there. Victor W is on there. Victor Wembanyama or whatever his name is. He's on there. They're watching him. They're looking at everybody who's coming up. They probably have Bronny James on there or Bryce James on there. And they look at all of them and they speculate and they think about, well, this player, what is he developing into? What does he look like he's becoming? Would this guy be a fit with what we're doing here? Koloko, yeah, he looks like a fit. All right, let's land him. It's that kind of thing, stuff like that. Leslie is saying, I love that the Raptors organization doesn't live on picks. They do their research on guys that fit well on the team. It's important. Like, listen, you can buy a suit at any old suit store, but it may not fit you correctly. It may not be the right thing for your abdomen, the way your proportion is with your body. You may have longer legs or a bigger torso or something like that. You just go buy a random suit and you put it on, it may look shit on you. That's why you need to go to Tom's place in Kensington Market, and go say hi to Tom from me, the Raptors Freak. He's a friend of mine. And say, Tom, I want to get fitted for a suit that actually fits my body and makes me look good. And because you can go buy whatever you want, J.C. Penney, Kmart, or whatever, and it won't look good on you. That's what I'm saying. It has to fit. It has to look right. And we really draft that way. We really do. Really, really do. If we had drafted Jalen Suggs instead of Scotty Barnes that year, it wouldn't have fit right. It wouldn't have looked right. I knew that too. And when they kept shoving him down my throat, I'm like, why Jalen Suggs? It doesn't make any sense. And I was like, it wouldn't have fit right. I knew it wouldn't. And we knew Scotty, all of a sudden, boom, he fits right. He fits real, real good. And I love that too about them, Leslie, that they really do their research, their due diligence, and they really are smart, very purposeful with the moves they're making. We didn't do a lot of moves this summer, but they've been very purposeful in building towards our vision and going in concert with what we want to do, and not like against it, or like, this is a weird, anomaly move. Why did we do this? This doesn't make sense. Like, Wancho makes sense. Otto Porter makes sense. Gabe Brown makes sense. Jeff Doughton makes sense. These people make sense for what we're trying to do. Duke Rocks is saying, when it comes to winning championships, owners and media giants are interested in views, advertising. The narrative is media wants U.S.-based teams in the playoffs. This puts Canadian teams at a disadvantage. Yeah, I would agree with this. That there are different things, like the Raptors organization, Masai Ujiri and Nick Nurse have said before that we have a lot of advantages being the only team in Canada, being this, being that, but we also have a lot of disadvantages. And it's really, Masai has tried to really amplify the advantages as much as possible for us, whether it's his amazing scouting, his international reach, the fact that we have the whole of Canada supporting us. We really double down on those kind of things and amplify them. And the things that hurt us, the things like what you're saying, as far as they don't want us to be on TV, they don't want us to be in the playoffs because we're in Canada, that we have to overcome them and make sure we beat all that and stuff like that. This is true what Duke's saying, and it's tough, but it is what it is. And, we're in competition. If the reality of it is like, okay, there's 29 U.S. teams, one Canadian team. That Canadian team should never, ever be allowed to win ever again in the NBA. That's messed up. That's discrimination. That's not equal. This league has to be fair and equal across the board. The Raptors should have exactly the same chance as any other team in this league to compete and do well. And that if there are any factors out there, nefarious factors or forces out there trying to hold us down so that this doesn't happen, well, I hope we overcome it every which way and stuff like that. Because there is some truth to this. That, they like, oh, yeah, you got it. You went and got it. Okay. They may have wanted us to only get to the finals and play against Golden State, feel good about it, but we went all the way and took it. And that may have went against the plan a little bit and stuff like that, because they were really setting it up that Golden State will just take care of us no matter what. They were wrong. They were wrong. Oh, yeah, they were. All right. Shane Waters saying, "Hey, Lex, you're building an NBA team. Who are you building your team around? Who is the player in today's NBA you build your team off of?" I know I'm really biased, and I'm going to say Scotty. The only reason why is because I see he's like the absolute bottom floor, and he's just about to shoot up and be this guy. I'm even more predicting. I'm raising the level of what I expect from him this season because I'm seeing some new things in the last couple of days. Yesterday, he was working out all day yesterday in California. In fact, he was in Fresno the last couple of days at Jalen Green's camp. And he's been, with the little kids, but also working out at the same time. And what Scotty said on his Instagram yesterday is, I'm putting in that work to show it later on. Is what he's saying. He's putting in that work this summer to show it and show what he's done, to show it on the court. And I really do believe this, that he's going to become a dominant player in the league. And that's the dude I want to build around. I'm glad he's on our team, and it's exactly what's going on. I could easily say somebody like Luka Doncic. I could easily say Giannis. I could easily say a center like Jokic or something like that. But I really do feel like Scotty. Scotty is the actual guy. And I know I'm very biased on this, but it is Scotty, Shane. Monty, that's a nice compliment. I don't know if that's true, but I know he's been doing some good stuff lately, and he's been on fire too. Very animated YouTube person, NBA Chef. Love him. Go check out NBA Chef. I always plug him. David S. is saying, guide to building. Avoid big threes. Avoid max contracts. develop from within, and avoid Joel Embiid. This is a specific list. And I like it. It's not that you got to avoid big threes. Big threes were in fashion. Threes were in vogue about 15 years ago. Like the Celtics were the first team to do it with Garnett, Pierce, and Allen. And then the Heat, of course, with Bosh, Wade, and LeBron. Those are really kind of like that era of threes. And then the threes that have come since have been kind of garbage. Like, really, if you think about it, the teams that have been big threes have been kind of garbage. Could you count Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving, and LeBron James? Maybe, because they've all been kind of franchise players for their teams at different times. So, yeah, I mean, big threes are coming to a close at this point. So, if you want to build now and you're trying to build a big three, it may be a failed kind of way to do it. Because a lot of times the big three has to be something that gets thrown together all of a sudden. And then you have to mortgage a lot of your good young talent to get that last third big three person. Like what happened with the Nets and getting James Harden is the same kind of thing. It's like, oh crap, you had to give so much to Houston to get James Harden, and now it's completely hamstrung you. So in a way, much like Minnesota, you've kind of like put a huge gamble on your choice for your vision. That if it doesn't work out, well, then you're not only like, okay, well, we can try something different. No, you're in a hole and you're going to have a really hard time figuring something out if it doesn't work. So you're really putting your money on that working. And if it doesn't, like what happened with Brooklyn, you see what happens. You see what happens where they are this summer and stuff like that. So void max contracts, I don't think that's totally true. I think that you try not to give max contracts frivolously. I think that you really pick and choose and you figure out who deserves it and who's going to be somebody who's going to continue to work, even though you gave them a max contract. Like Pascal and Fred, they can get max contracts and they're going to work just as hard as they did before they got max contracts. That's important because some guys get the bag and they sit on it like it's a bean bag for the rest of their career. Oh, I got my bag and now I'm just going to sit on the bean bag. And everybody wonders, why are they not as good as they were like 5 years ago? What's going on there? It's because they got paid, they got lazy, and they're done. They don't have any fire in them anymore. They got what they wanted. They wanted money. They wanted generation wealth, and that's it. They're done. But that's the thing. You want to give a max contract as an investment to somebody that's really important to invest in, like Giannis. Giannis is a good example. Scotty Barnes is another good example. You want to invest in these guys and keep them around. So don't be afraid to give a max contract. It can help. Developing from within has been a huge part of what we've done. And it's because we've had to, because we haven't been necessarily the most attractive free agent destination. It may be that we've won successfully for most of the year, so we haven't relied on lottery picks or really high draft picks. So it's really about this kind of thing. And Nick said when he was in Hungary, he said his GM came to him, Masai Ujiri, and he said, Bobby Webster, he said, Nick, we've got to develop within to become competitive. We're not going to be able to get these free agents. We're not going to be able to get these big names in this kind of way. So you need to take our players that we've already got and maximize the potential and what they can be and develop the hell out of them. And that's what they did. Like Nick said that Masai very consciously years ago came to them, Dwayne Casey, Nick Nurse, and said, you guys are going to have to develop your own talent within and make them better. And that is a huge part of our philosophy as a franchise and what we're doing. And we're really good at it. That's a really good thing too. I would agree with avoiding Joel Embiid. I would agree with avoiding a big, huge center being your main player or franchise player altogether. That is just not the place you want to put your eggs in the basket. You want to put it somewhere in the middle. There's different players in the league that I think are really good players to have as a franchise player, like Luka and Giannis. But I don't think Embiid is a good player to have as your franchise player. That he's at the very end of the spectrum as being big. And that's not always where you want to invest all your money and stuff like that. Duke Rocks is saying, when it comes to biased officiating, NBA is the worst and in your face obvious. MLB would be next. NHL, because it's 6 Canadian teams, is not so obvious. But, listen, look at the NHL. No, when has a Canadian team come close to winning a Stanley Cup recently? I mean, I know Montreal has done fairly well. They had a run recently, but we have not been getting close to the cup in a lot of different ways with the Canadian franchises. And I think it's real fishy. I hate that. I feel like it should be at least one powerhouse Canadian franchise that is absolutely always dominating and in the top four every single year. Somebody who's in the conference finals every single year, and we don't have that in the NHL right now. Whether it should be Montreal, the Leafs, or any of the West Coast teams, or anything like that. I won't say the Sens. I won't say the Sens. But as far as like the biased officiating, listen, the NBA is trying to fix this. They really are trying to become more transparent. And if they do this Netflix series with Tim Donaghy, they're going to have to do it even more. They may have to retire some of their old refs, and they're going to have to be more and more up on the up and up. I've looked more and more in researching the refs and trying to figure things out from my ref report this summer that, they are really trying in a PR campaign to make the refs in the NBA look as fair as possible. And, there's different things that they do. Like one of the things Nick Nurse said in Hungary was that he really respects a ref that will come to him and say, I blew that call. That if you do make a bad call as a ref, if you could just admit it sometimes and come to the coach and say, you know what, you're right. I totally blew that call. I'm sorry. That goes a long way for coaches and stuff like that, because the refs are human and they really are not totally trying. They're trying to do this right. I really believe this. Like, I don't think that the refs actually do hate the Raptors. I think in some ways the Raptors get some favor from the refs and the recent things that I've been looking at, because they really are trying to have good relationships with the referees. In fact, I think it's mandated by the team to try and keep a good relationship. When Kyle left, our ref, the way they treated us last year was better than the years before that. We got treated by the refs a little bit better last year without Kyle on the team. And it's cool to hear people like Nick Nurse, Chris Boucher, and Scotty Barnes all in the last 6 months or so say that they are careful about what they say to the press, and that they want the NBA head office and the referees to like them, that they care about them, giving a shit about them. Like Chris on Hustle Play said, listen, you referees, you're awesome. I love you guys. I've been getting calls lately. I want to continue that. I love you guys. So they're totally willing to kiss the ref's ass as much as possible to get these kind of good outcomes. And Scotty said it too on his Twitch. He's talking about how he hates how they call Tex when he celebrates and he yells. But he's also at the same time, he's saying, Adam Silver, I love you guys. You're the best. I just want good calls this year. You guys are doing a great job. Nick Nurse, same thing in Hungary. He's like, the refs are trying to do a good job. They do their best. They're human. They're not perfect. And, he's saying things that say good favor, like respect, and showing that he wants good favor for them. It's weird. They're gonna really try hard to make them look as fair as possible in the NBA. But we'll be able to point this kind of stuff out. It was a big part of my streams and reactions last year for the games, is the ref manipulation part, where I would point out the little intricate ways that the refs could change and alter the game in small little ways. Like whether it's stuff like walking into the lane when the guy's shooting a free throw, or whether it's holding the ball to inbounds so the other team gets a chance to get back on defense. There's all kinds of little subtle ways they can do stuff. But you know what? I want the Raps to just overcome it. If we did it in 2019, we can do it again. That at each level we can do that. And there are certain refs that actually do really respect and like the Raptors. You can tell. I think Tony Brothers kind of in his heart is like, these Raptors are scrappy. And I love how physical and how great, how athletic they get after it. Look at the way they play defense, the way they full court press a good chunk of the game, the way that they're so dogged and so much energy put on the court. That can't hurt. Referees do actually really reward teams that have the kind of style of play like the Raptors have. So in some ways, we're setting ourselves up to get some referee good favor and stuff like that. But I'm really going to be watching this with a microscope this season. I'm really, really going to be watching how the refs treat us and if things are on the level and fair and stuff. I actually believe that the refs are trying to be as fair as possible at this point. And that I actually believe that the NBA is really trying to look like a really on the up and up legitimate league with no gambling referees, with no hidden agendas of helping teams to win and stuff like that. They may be changing things. They may have done it in the past, but it may be that it's so blown open and wide open and able to look at that they have to be really on the level as much as possible at this point and stuff like that. So Joseph Stark's saying that, Monty, we all family in Raptors Nation, Chev, Freak, you, me, we're all equal Raptor fans. Yes, Joseph Starks. Yes, NBA chef. I've been watching Chris's Sports Corner. You guys told me about him, and I started watching him. He's hilarious. He loves doing his videos in his car. He was like in the wait. He was in a hospital room with his mom or something, and he's doing a video on YouTube. And it's so weird. Like Chris is talking, and he's talking about LeBron or something, and then all of a sudden the machine starts beeping. Like he's like in the hospital. He's like, "Oh shit, what is this? This is wrong." I was like, "Holy crap!" He's like, "This dude's a professional. He's in a hospital room with a loved one, and the machine's freaking out, and he's still doing his YouTube content." During that. I was like, man, kudos to you, Chris. He's like the West Coast chef to me. It's like he's a Laker fan who's like become a Raptor fan, just like Chefs was a Knicks fan who's become a Raptors fan. But yeah, they're all fun. They're all fun. David S is saying, yeah, that's a good point, Duke Rocks. NBA officiating is so bad sometimes. I want to give up watching the NBA. It's pretty pathetic. And the amount of money these moronic refs make is insane. Yeah, kind of like dialing back to what I just said. I think they're trying harder. I've been in that point where David is. I didn't want to watch anymore in the summer of 2018. Then I saw how we got cheesed out with DeMar and Kyle the last year that DeMar was on our team. When we lost in the playoffs that year, I really thought we got railroaded out. The referees had a huge hand in why we got beat in the playoffs that year. And I was pissed off. I was like saying, I'm not even going to watch the league this year. I was going to boycott the league the year we won the championship because I was like, Golden State's going to win again. Obviously, they're setting it up for them. And like they railroaded us out of the NBA playoffs again this season. I was just really pissed off. But I'm glad I didn't give up and I kept watching. And that's maybe what we need to look at is right now, David, is don't give up because we've shown that we can overcome this before. And I think we are more better set up to overcome it in some ways because we know how to get there. It's not totally unknown. And that we have the culture that is pushing us towards getting there again. And that we know that it works and we just need to do it again. One of the cool things is Nick Nurse says one of the things he has to get his players to believe in is that they deserve to win the championship. That this is something in his years of learning about being a leader, about being a coach, about being the best and getting the best out of your players is one of the most important things is to make your players deserve or think that they deserve to win. And that they earned it and that it's theirs and they need to get it and stuff like that. And that's something that he puts in these guys, that they all believe that they deserve and they want to win an NBA championship and stuff like that. It's really important. Monique's saying, Scotty over everything, fuck KD. Yes, Monique. Yes. Kevin Durant, honestly, never mind. There was the OVO Fest last night here in Toronto. It went off. It was very loud. Stevie Roots said he could hear the bass from OVO Fest at Budweiser stage all the way at his house in Parkdale. It was booming out, boom, 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 all that kind of stuff. Savannah Hamilton said it was fire on her Twitter. All kinds of good stuff there, interesting stuff there. And then Nick Nurse was at the Argos game. He was at the CFL game supporting the Toronto Argonauts. And with his son sitting in the crowd and stuff like that. Good to see that kind of stuff. Dukes Rocks is saying at DS, David, the NBA allows this because it's all about the money. Why are the Raps not playing Christmas Day game? Refs know what's what. They want to work the big games and gain reputation. Well, that's part of it. Is like even if it's rigged a little bit against us, isn't that make it all the more sweeter when we overcome it all and make it happen? And this is part of the reason why people like Vince Carter gleefully will say, I never thought the Raptors will win a championship ever. It's because he knows on the down low, because he's on the inside, there is this kind of force against them winning. And that, he doesn't think we'll ever win again. You ask Vince Carter, he doesn't probably think that the Raptors will ever win another championship ever again. There's a lot of Americans that are NBA fans that are like, yeah, be happy you won a championship in 2019 Toronto because you will never, ever, ever win another one again. And they really believe this. They want to believe this. That's why we have to prove it wrong and make them wrong and go get another one again, stuff like that. That stuff with the Christmas Day game, I mean, I understand, but once again, I look at all the positives of it. The guys get to be with their families. Who cares? Like, it's just another day and stuff like that. I know there's some prestige to it and stuff like that. And us Raptor fans are calling out for them to play on Christmas or different things. But to me, I don't really care about that and stuff like that. And it's true. The main point of Duke's thing is that it is all about the money. It's about the revenue and stuff like that. That's why they would be smart to market us a little bit better down there. Why not market us? We're a very attractive, fun team to watch. We've seen how much the Raptor fans are going crazy waiting for the season to come back around right now. And it's like, listen, the enthusiasm and the star power of Scotty Barnes and different other Raptors is not being fully utilized on the other side of the border. And then in some ways it sucks because they did this with Vince. They didn't totally put him on the other side of the border. They did more than any other Raptor before. But then when he leaves and he comes there, they over promote him. Like Kyle after he left from Miami last year. They over promote Kyle because all of a sudden now he's on that side of the border and there's all this like built up star power from him being in Toronto for 9 years. And they're boom, he's all over the place on TV down there. And they treat him like a totally different way than when he was on Toronto. It sucks. And that's part of the insidious way that they may try and draw Scotty away from us in the years from now. Is like he'll say, look, we're not paying any attention to you. We'll ignore you. It's kind of like a fucked up, like toxic relationship with a boyfriend or something like that. And then all of a sudden they get things in a certain way and then it changes. It's like, that's how they'll try and draw him down there. So you will never be a big enough superstar in Canada. Well, that's because you don't fucking cover Canadian superstars down there. And if you did, then it would be better. But that's part of the way they drive them out of Canada to come down there with the allure of being more famous over there because they don't give them any spotlight from here. That's part of the way it works. Jordan's saying, why doesn't the NBA have friendly games against the EuroLeague in the preseason? They do usually. We usually have at least one game against a foreign team. We play like the Greek champion in like the preseason. We just don't this year. But I'm sure there's some teams in the NBA that may be doing this against some foreign teams this year. It could also be partly because of the pandemic and opening things up. Maybe there's levels to how much they open things up, and maybe there's not availability or something like that. But the Raptors quite often have played like teams, like we played the team from Chile or something like that. We'll play the team from like Greece. We'll play a team from like Japan all of a sudden or something like that. They always try to manage something like that usually. But I don't think there is anything like that on the Raptors schedule this year. We are doing a couple games in other Canadian cities, which is a big deal. But yeah, I don't know. We'd have to see all the preseason schedules. There could be a team that is actually playing a European team somewhere or a team from another country somewhere. Monique's saying Kyle's comments on Chris Broussard was spot on. Yes, Kyle didn't want to call him out specifically or retort to him specifically. He just very classy, just stating how he feels about the whole subject and the subject matter Chris Broussard brought up. And now it just looks silly. I mean, we've had Caravana happen since and stuff like that. He just looks like a joke. He really has become kind of a joke because of this, Chris Broussard. But, down south, they're not talking about it as much as we are up here. That's one thing we have to say, too. Leslie's saying, you read my mind, Alex. Masai Ujiri should be on top of Maple Leaf Sports. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to. That's part of what I was saying earlier with the problem with before when Richard Petty was in charge of Maple Leaf Sports, is that he had too much to do. It's really, you got to have to focus on one thing. And then I wouldn't want Masai drawn away from focusing on the Raptors to try and help the Leafs so much and stuff like that. Plus, he doesn't really know hockey like he knows basketball. Masai comes from basketball, and it may be way out of his jurisdiction as far as giving any kind of skilled, credible leadership for the sport of hockey because it's just not his world or his realm of knowledge and stuff like that. So I don't believe in we need somebody like Masai that's in the hockey world that can come in and do that. But I don't even know if there's anything like that. It could very well be that Masai Ujiri is like Red Auerbach. He's like these once-in-a-lifetime kind of executives that don't come around. They're very rare. They're very tough. He's like a LeBron James as a GM that you just don't get very many of them come through. He's that special, Masai Ujiri. So it could be that kind of stuff. But they need the hockey equivalent is basically what they need. And Shanahan's been in charge, I guess. Brandon Shanahan's kind of been the guy who's been in charge the last couple of years. He's been building towards something good, as long as there's some positive growth. But they do really have a ceiling they need to bust through, the Leafs. And it's the first round. They got to bust through that first round and get it going. Peter S. is saying, happy dumpster fire tutorial, everyone. Great show today. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. I love having both the Saborans here. It's always good. G saying, credit to Larry Tannenbaum for giving Masai his respect and allowing him to work freely in his way. Seems he does not micromanage the situation. This is huge. And in fact, I should talk about this more. G's right. This is a problem. This is James Dolan's problem. that the owner will try and micromanage or get too involved in too many ways. Now, the owner can be a figurehead and be like, this is the tone we want to set, like Jerry Buss did. It's like, this is who we are. This is what we're going to do. I'm opening up the pocketbooks. But he realized Jerry West was his GM, and he let Jerry West do his job. And then the Lakers kind of got, there were problems with Jerry West and Jerry Buss eventually with them being running together. They didn't always see eye to eye, and there was conflicts there. It's a similar kind of thing to Jerry Reinsdorf, Jerry Krause in Chicago during the Jordan years. There were always kind of like problems within. But if you took care of them properly, there would be media storms and problems and distractions from these kind of conflicts. So it's really important that like Larry Tannenbaum says, look, I just write the checks. I trust you guys. I want to make money and you guys will help me, but you are in charge. And he's not trying to put his imprint of what he cares about or what he wants to do on anything. He's just writing the checks. He's in charge. And that's really important because it's not that way for every team. Mark Cuban's another interesting example because he's the owner and he has a heavy influence on what the team's doing as far as players and things that the GM decisions. He's almost like another person. And now that can cause problems because he really needs to have somebody working with him that completely sees his vision and is working with him. That, you know, that's important. And sometimes people move through Dallas because they don't totally line up with what Mark Cuban wants. And that can hurt and stymie Dallas with what they're trying to do to a degree because Mark Cuban cares so much. It's kind of good that Larry Tannenbaum's arm's length away, watching everything happen, but he's not involved and stuff like that. It can be part of the problem that causes the toxicity is the owner and what they are trying to do and stuff like that. But Mark Cuban's pretty good about he really is, it's my show, it's my vision, and the GM works with me. He might as well be the guy in charge, Mark Cuban. He might be the guy who says, yeah, well, let's trade Porzingis to Washington for Spencer Dinwiddie in this package. Yeah, let's do this. He may be the end of the line buck. But in our organization, it's Masai Ujiri, the team president. Meanwhile, in their organization, maybe the team owner, Mark Cuban, something like that. So I really do give Larry Tannenbaum a lot of credit. And not only for staying back and letting the guys do their jobs, because Masai does the same thing with Nick Nurse underneath him. That's important too. Bobby Webster, same kind of thing. They all have clear roles and they stay within their lane and they do the role that they're supposed to be doing. They don't try and add job titles or on top of their job title by doing more than they're supposed to be doing within the organization. And that's really important, stuff like that. So, all right, let's see what's going on here. Ken A saying best player for us means something different. Messiah's character first. They can turn you into a good player. That's right. He sees players as clay. And if the clay is not really kind of in the right form or the consistency to work with us, then he doesn't even want that piece of clay to come in there. It's a really good way of, it's kind of like a club. We're a club, the Raptors, and you got to go through the bouncer to get in. The bouncer looks at you, maybe looks at your ID and he says, well, you're not getting in this club because you don't fit with the vibe. The vibe in this club is very positive and this way and this way and this way and this way. No baggage, none of this, no stepping on toes. None of this stuff. You can't get in. I'm sorry. You're not going to be that kind of player that fits with us. We don't even let you in. So it's like that is a good way to avoid future problems by building the character within your team, the culture within your team, by having the character with your guys and stuff like that. Really, really important. Really, 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 really important. All right. I love this. There's so many comments here. This is interesting to see. All right, let me keep going. Yeah, Kenny's right, though. Best player to us, there's factors, and character is one of them, and fit, that is another. Joseph Starks is saying, my focus is on the name on the front of the jersey. We all have to admit our bench mob management has been suspect. I hope we select the best players because this year we have a chance at championship. Well, look at it this way, Joseph. Think about the Tampa year. We didn't have really good quality in the starters or the bench. And, well, we came back, got in the playoffs. Like, I was just looking at our season last year. Holy crap. Did you guys know on January 23rd of this year, we were a 500 team still? That is really how quick we got to plus 14 as far as wins over losses by the end of the season. Is January 23rd, we were a 500 team. And within that period of time to the end of the season, we got that much better with our record. That's insane. That's so good. That really tells me that we're going to be so much better this year. And that part of it is we had to slough off Tampa. And that maybe part of the reason why our bench was so bad last year is that is part of getting away from Tampa. It's like, well, our starters and the core is really good, but we have no bench depth. Well, now we're building back into it. That was just the remnants of Tampa, why our bench was so bad last year. And we're moving away from it. We're moving away from it. Things are going to be good and stuff like that. Yeah, listen, I'm a team guy first. A lot of NBA fans are fans of players. They could be fans of just Kobe or LeBron. And I'm a fan of the team first. As much as I love Scotty, I love Fred, I love Chris Boucher, Pascal, the team, OG, I am first for the team. And that, I don't care if any of these guys cross the team and do something like Vince did or something like that. I will be with the team. I'm not with you guys at that point. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. So, yeah, team first for me and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think we're going to do well. I honestly think we're a dark horse to win the championship this year. I think that we're not messing around and try not to do it. We're already setting ourselves up to spring forward into the season and be super successful with a Rico Hines run this week and just really, really being together. These guys are working together and they're getting on the same page. The synergy is going to be totally different in the beginning of the year than it was last year. Last year was really orientation. Like, hey, we're new. I'm new. I'm a rookie. I'm just coming back from COVID. I just was injured with my shoulder. Now everybody will be coming in together right off the bat. Boom, look out. Let's go is what I'm saying. Joseph Stark saying, not to light a fire, but I'm seeing this year's bench could be best we've ever had. Our bench could be a starting five. Seriously. This is true. I think that we do have like two teams of starting fives on our team at this point. We're so like Otto Porter could start for a lot of teams in this league. That's just the truth. We know Precious could start for many teams on this league. A lot of these guys on our bench could start on other teams. Banton probably could be a starter on a lower level team and like very valuable and stuff like that. I totally agree with this. Now, about predicting us to have maybe the best bench we've ever had ever, I'd love to have that happen, but I think that may be a tall order. I really think that the bench mob with Pascal and Fred and Jakob, that was an amazing bench. That year was so good with our bench. And there's been other years where our bench has been really good. But it'll be a competition for that. I think that they'll do similar and maybe, who knows, they could be better. They could be. I won't limit them. Yeah, you guys are talking about Otto Porter for sure. Otto Porter is a great addition, a huge addition. And Nick Nurse has brought up Thad Young in particular. He's saying, listen, if Thad's going to be more aware of what we're doing than just coming in for the last part of the season last year, he's going to be a different kind of guy this year. Like Nick Nurse has said this in Hungary or whatever interview he's talking about. I think maybe it was at the golf tournament. He's saying Thad Young is going to be a different player for us this year because he's going to be more used to being here, that he was still really learning everything in the time last year and going into Philadelphia series. That this year he's going to be more comfortable and he may be more useful and may surprise us a little bit more how he works within our system, being more familiar and stuff like that. Random Gamer is saying, wow, I'm heartbroken. Embiid is all we got, man. He's crying. I know that's my personal opinion. Like if I was Sixer freak, I would be spinning it to make him sound big and make him sound better. I have to sewer you guys a little bit. This is just like what Fox News does to the Democrats. I got to sewer the Sixers nation to a degree and stuff like that. I just wouldn't build my team around a center at this point in the NBA. I just wouldn't. It just doesn't seem like it's smart logic and stuff like that. G saying, laugh out loud, random. Just tell him to hoop. Don't injure himself and others and maybe to avoid interviews. I just want Joel to mature a little, in some ways, like not on the basketball, like more as a person, his personality, not act like such a big kid in some ways. Being a big kid is fun and good in some ways, but it's not in some ways. I don't know. I don't need to critique Joel Embiid. He's a good player. He can do whatever he's going to do. It's just he's going to get the ramifications of people hating him if he's acting like a jackass. And yeah, he shouldn't be falling on people. Shane Waters saying, we are going to go from one of the worst benches in the league last year to one of the best. Here's to the rise of the bench mob 2.0. Yes, Shane, I love hearing that. That's music to my ears. I really hope your guys are right, that our bench is so much more improved this year. And that Nick Nurse, like he said, he's going to have to finesse how he figures out who's going to get the time and when, because there's not going to be enough minutes. And there's going to be games where some guys don't get in the game when we think maybe they should have been in the game. And he may make mistakes and play the wrong guy, and we may lose the game. And then afterwards, we're all saying, well, why didn't you play Boucher instead of that guy in that moment? That guy may have been the guy you needed at that time. There's going to be a little bit of that this year. He can't be absolutely perfect, and he will be trying things. And a lot of times he's successful, but he does have failure in things he tries also, Nick Nurse. And the great thing about it is he'll be open and honest, and he'll admit it when he kind of like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have rotated a little earlier. Maybe I should have done this and stuff like that. Those kind of things. Duke Rocks is saying, when a professional league, NHL, NBA, MLB look at broadcast views, they don't count Canada, only the US. So when the Raps won the chip, they see it as a fail, even though millions tuned in to Canada. You know, it's different levels to this. I'm sure Adam Silver is very aware of the growth the NBA saw worldwide after the Raptors won a championship. You know, that is true. Like in a lot of ways, it exploded the market here in Canada as far as things. So revenue for NBA overall around the world probably went up. But, you know, there's going to be people that want to poo-poo us winning and saying that, oh, yeah, nobody want to watch that. So they'll look at the U.S. ratings when they don't even include the ratings in Canada. The ratings for the 2019 NBA championship finals were actually really, really good. And if you compare them to other years, like the bubble championship with the Lakers and even the Milwaukee Bucks championship, that we did better ratings wise than both those finals. That's just the damn truth. That more people watch Golden State versus Toronto than Phoenix and Milwaukee, than the Lakers and the Heat in those finals. That's just, the numbers are right. And that's for the US also. That more people, that's something people aren't saying. They tried to say the numbers are down. Well, maybe they were down from the year before, but they've been trending down since. And that we did better with ratings than Milwaukee and Phoenix did and stuff like that. So I don't like that argument. It's stupid. They're going to try and say because we're Canadian team are in there. Well, the ratings were down the next 2 years in the finals compared to our ratings. And that's just the damn truth. Joseph Starks is saying, gee, if Precious gets promoted, that means someone from the starting five is now attacking from our bench. Again, wow. Other teams should be scared of us. I think they are. They were last year. Like, they would hold guys out of games against us. It was a well-known secret. People came out and said that teams, they do not like playing the Raptors. When they see the Raptors on the schedule coming up, they're like groaning or like, oh, no, not these guys again. Because they realize, because our MO is work hard on defense and play hard, we're all over those guys. And not only that, we're building a team that is really hard to score on. Like, you have all these long wingspans, the Eagles all over the court. It's really hard to play against, and it's physical and it's tough, and you get beat up, and they don't like playing the Raptors. They're already scared of playing us, and we're only getting nastier. You add a shot blocker like Koloko on the last line of defense, and boom, it only gets worse. It's like they're in a labyrinth, and they're running through the hallways, and they're like, oh, maybe this is a little bit better. And they come around the corner, there's a new Minotaur around the corner, and they're like, they're like, you know, stuff like that. We're only getting scarier. And it's not only the physical talent and the size of our lineup, it's the young development. Like we said yesterday, Scotty Barnes is going to be a better defensive player this year because he has more of an understanding of what to expect from this NBA season. That a lot of what he does, he's so cerebral as an NBA player, he fine-tunes things and gets better and better and finds more and more success. He goes in that direction. So as Scotty figures out spacing with his teammates more and more on team defense and different things like that, he's going to expand and become an even more awesome defender in this league. And that's the thing that's going to make it even harder for other teams. It's like they already had a hard time last year. We were half-assing. We were just doing things like to try things out, not really with total purpose. Certain things, yes, very purposeful. The defensive system, the philosophies, but not the very intricate fine-tuning of very specific decisions in the moment defensively. That is where Scotty's going to excel even more. And it's going to be, oh my gosh, it's going to be so OP. It's going to be overpowering. And other teams are going to, like I said, they're going to see it on the calendar. They're going to see the Raptors coming up. And they're going to be like, oh no, not these guys again. They're going to be like other teams like Sacramento. Be like, oh, cream puff. It's going to be so fun to play them. But when they see the Raptors, they're going to be like, fuck, we got to play the fucking Raptors tonight. They're going to be like that. Seriously. All right, let's see. Shane Waters saying Joker is big. I would be a team, build a team around him without hesitation. He's not your typical big though. You're talking about because of the passing and the different things like that. I still think he's got a flaw. I still think he's got a flaw, and that we can be utilized and beat. That we've seen this in the Western Conference playoffs. When Jokic gets to a certain team in the Western Conference, he's neutralized. He isn't able to be all he is supposed to be to help his team to win, and that the other team beats them. That's the thing I'm saying. These big guys have not proved anything, that this is a big man's league at this point, that this is a wings league at this point. This is not a big man's league. This is not the era of Russell and Chamberlain. This is not the era of Olajuwon and O'Neal. This is a new era, and it's a little bit shorter, a little bit faster, and stuff like that. Shane Waters saying Precious and Boucher are going to be Montreal and Lou Will in a couple of years. Are you saying Montrez and Lou Will in a couple of years? Two men on the same team fighting for six man. Don't sleep on Boucher. Montrez. Okay, Montrez. If anybody's going to be competing for six man of the year, it'll be Precious. That is as long as he's not starting. I don't know. I'm not. Once again, that's an award that I don't really care about. Six man of the year is kind of a weird one, and they're going to give it to flaky people all the time. Like I didn't think that Tyler Hero. I mean, I guess I kind of understand why he won six man of the year this year, stuff like that. The other awards are more important to me, like all NBA, All Star, that kind of stuff. Six man, G saying, okay, Boucher can be six man and Precious most improved. Yeah, that sounds about right. That could be. I don't know. I don't think Boucher's going to win any awards, guys. He's going to be one of these unsung, dirty, hard work, doing the hard work, dirty kind of stuff that he has to do down there. And that's not always given awards to. Joe Stark saying, I just thought of our balance or depth and felt a warm feeling. That was the first time ever. Hey, Raptor fans, have we secretly built a balanced squad? Thoughts, and Messiah we trust. A lot of people that aren't Raptor fans or people that understand what we're doing will look at our roster just on paper and think it's not balanced at all. Not at all. I mean, I saw a tweet in the last day or so saying the Raptors' whole roster is power forwards, is what they think. They're like looking at a roster like they got all power forwards on their team. And that was part of the reason why the predictions last year had us so low. They looked at our roster makeup and they're saying they have lacking of certain positions. Like they don't have a center. And like, is this enough guards? It's like there's a lot of guys in the middle on this team. What is this? They don't understand. It's very purposeful and there's reasons for this and stuff like that. And I think that even though Joseph's saying this, and like we do have a balanced squad in some sort of weird way, but it's balanced with height and versatility throughout the whole roster. And that's a little bit different than the average, like classic NBA franchise, like roster is that, you know, you have 4 or 5 guards, you have 2 or 3 centers, and then you have like 4 or 5 forwards in the middle. There's nothing like that. We've got like 10 forwards, 1 center, and like 2 or 3 guards. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that that's very interesting because we have a heavy center in the middle of our roster. And, you know, that makes us a little bit more secure, more foundational in some ways. I don't know. David S. is saying, yes, we have a very balanced squad with 14 power forwards and Fred. I mean, even in this tweet, they're saying Koloko's a power forward. I'm like, motherfucker, he's 7'1". He's a center. He's a real center. Like, come on. This is why they think we don't have any centers. We get a center, and then they try to tell us we don't have a center still. We have a center now. And I still think that Khem Birch is really a center. Like he's more a center than a power forward in a lot of ways. They just thought they once again, they don't say Pascal's a superstar. They don't say we have a center. They like to mislabel our players and things that what's going on up here. They like to mislabel it. Monique saying Scarborough shooting stars in the quarterfinals tonight. That's cool. I'm really glad that Scarborough's CBL team is having success in their first year. This is awesome. It's good for the city, good for Scarborough. Go Shooting Stars. Is Jalen Harris still playing for them? I'd like to see what his line was. Monty Python saying it's good for the league if Canada wins another title. Is it not? I don't get it. I don't know. I think it's hard to say. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Kudos to Andrew Wiggins for being in Vaughn this weekend with the championship trophy. He's run around in Vaughn with the trophy, showing it to all the kids, and I love that. I love that he brought the Larry O'Brien to Vaughn this weekend. Andrew Wiggins and walking around with it. And Casey Bannerman had such a fire jersey for him, one of these specialized jerseys, and he's got a shirt, Maple Jordan shirt. So cool swag for Andrew Wiggins, and so happy he brought the championship here. I don't know if it's bad. Like, listen, let's look at the MLB for a second. The Blue Jays win 2 World Series in the 90s. Have they come very close ever since? No. And I don't know if that's just because they're in the American League East with the Yankees and the Rays and the Red Sox and stuff like that. But that's something that maybe in a way, like they saw what happened when the Blue Jays won the World Series. And they're like, man, we can't have this happen anytime soon. And even when Montreal was close to getting a World Series again, they locked out and ended that season before the Expos had really good chance to win the World Series the year they ended the season because of a lockout. So I don't know. There could be nefarious forces out there that are trying to limit championships for the Blue Jays and the Raptors because they are the only Canadian teams in their leagues. I don't know. That could be very true. And that's part of the reason why we're the underdog and we fight against so much, because this could be true. Let's see. Monty saying, we're in the league to be included, so why not be included? Really counterintuitive relationship. It's all greedy and money thing. It's like the line, the imaginary boundary that divides Canada from the US. It's all this kind of stuff. It's like, seriously, if we really want to have an equal chance, they should be covering us exactly the same way throughout the whole league in the US. It's so stupid that there's NBA and NBA Canada and that it's delineated and done different ways on different sides of the border. Because I'll tell you the truth, on this side of the border, we cover the NBA with all the teams that they give good coverage of all the NBA teams up here for the most part. And it's very fair in a lot of ways. Now, sure, it's very centric towards the Raptors and the Canadian team, but we do cover all the other teams and we do get games of other teams in the NBA. Why can't we get a little bit more exposure on the other side of the border? Are they worried that we're going to get too many fans, that people are going to be rooting for the Raptors on their side of the border, buying our merchandise, and there's going to be more revenue coming to Canada? Maybe. That's probably what it is. Stuff like that. So Peter S. saying VC thought he would win a chip if he left, but that didn't work out too well. Yeah, he didn't win one ever. Like, and somebody said, like, in some ways, this is kind of karmic. That, like, the thing that really I hated about the Vince Carter interview with Kyle Lowry recently is Vince does a tell that tells me that he never thought the Raptors should ever win a championship. That he, in his own mind, said, yeah, they're a joke. And this really informs me if he still thinks that way in his mind, that, he thought that when he played for us. And that, like, listen, Vince, you said in your interview, I never thought the Raptors would ever win an NBA championship. And you played for us. So you're telling me that you never really thought we could ever win a championship when you were on our team? I hate that. And exactly that is a part of the difference in what the whole subject is here. The culture of the Raptors at that time wasn't allowing, we had the talent, we had maybe some success, but we didn't have the culture that respected the team. That even though we had a franchise, half man, half amazing, Air Canada, this guy wasn't really bought in on winning. That he didn't really think the Raptors had any kind of legitimate chance to ever win a championship ever in their whole history going forward perpetually. And that informs us to him being the leader of the team at that time thought that. And that's the difference between like having a winning culture and not having it. We didn't have a winning culture at the time, even though we were winning. We're winning, maybe coasting on talent, and not really having the right kind of building blocks of the mentality to why we're wanting to win, to go for championships. That really told me a lot about Vince's character. That he's never been serious enough as a player, that he's lacked Mamba mentality. He's lacked what Michael Jordan had, that drive, that willingness to kill to get what you want. It was more important to Vince to smile and be buddies with everybody than to win. And that's why he never won a championship. He could have came and won a championship with us. There was that time when we signed Jeremy Lin in the championship year. That was a spot that we were trying to figure out. And Vince's name was being bandied around at that time. And it could have been Vince. But, I have a feeling that Vince didn't want to come here. He says he wanted to, but you know what? I bet you he didn't think that we had any kind of chance of winning the championship in 2019. Realistically, he never believed in us. He didn't believe in us at game one of the finals when we got there. He was probably picking the Warriors to win the series right at the beginning. So that's what I'm saying. The dude, he even said on the podcast that he doesn't feel like we'll ever win again. Is how I really got that tell from him, the way he was talking about us in the championship and stuff like that. So there you go. He just doesn't have a winning mentality. That's what it is. Vince did not ever have a winning mentality. He had a lot of talent. He was a lot of sizzle, but no steak. And that's the opposite with Scotty Barnes. That's the thing I love about it. Scotty is the exact opposite. He's all about winning. That's the only thing that matters. So they're very different at different ends of the spectrum as far as franchise superstars. Vince Carter and Scotty Barnes. And it has to do with winning DNA and cutting edge, like I am going to do what it takes to win. I didn't ever feel like Vince did that. He was coasting on his own talent, is what he was doing. All right, let's keep going. Joseph Stark's saying that, gee, Freddie, Gary, Scotty, Pascal, OG, or Freddie, Scotty, OG, Pascal, Precious. I don't know about y'all, but I like option 2 here. The relief Precious will give 1 to 5 defensively is enormous and equal three points. All right. Gary was like jerked around as a bench player and a starter in Portland. He hated it. He was depressed. We have established him as a starter, and I don't like taking that spot away from him because it really helps his confidence. If you think about Gary being a streak shooter, we want him to feel very confident because he's more of a force. It won't hurt Precious coming off the bench in some ways, but I could see this change happening. And in some ways, it would be helpful because with Precious in the starting lineup, everybody slots down a little bit. We have more size. There's no worry about OG and Pascal necessarily have to fight a big guy that's bigger than them that they shouldn't have to, because now you got Precious and Scotty to take the 2 biggest guys. So I can see the benefit of that. And then there's also the benefit of Gary coming off the bench and being instant offense off our bench and helping to give us some good bench scoring no matter what. But I don't like the hit this might take for Gary's psyche. That we have to think about that we have to respect his path as an NBA player. And that, Precious will be the guy who's kind of breaking in case of emergency. We have somebody who's not available for our starting lineup. Boom. Precious is the first guy that we bring in and start in the place of somebody who doesn't make it. Because we know this is going to happen. There's going to be guys that miss games for little injuries, maybe for COVID, maybe for some whatever thing. And Precious may have to step up in a moment's notice. So I'd like to go with the incumbents for now and let that go. But there will be the opportunity for Precious to possibly come up and seize a starting spot and keep it even after the injury is over if he does certain things. But I still want to go within what we got. But there are benefits to both lineups, Joseph's saying here. And that second one would be a new look and be kind of a different kind of thing. And the emergence of Precious is going to be a really big factor in it. But we cannot do it at the detriment of Gary, is what I'm going to say right now. Gary is a really important offensive engine for our team. And we don't want to hurt his confidence, is what I'll say. Stuff like that. So top saying, hey, coming in late, but I saw earlier that chat about Harper Jr. commented about watching Summer League and agree. He seemed out of shape and slow to me. And Duke likes the option too. Harper Jr. needs to get his weight down a bit, just work on his overall conditioning. That could be true. He does look a little doughy, and he has lost weight since he joined us. Part of it was he was the heaviest guy on our summer league team, even heavier than Koloko. That's what I'm saying. Koloko's 7'1", and he was still less pounds than Ron Harper Jr. So there may be truth to this. You guys are saying this, and you're all kind of having the same opinion about what you're seeing with Ron right now. So that's interesting. Like I said, I think there's not enough information yet that we really need to see him in real important action, like preseason games and, of course, the regular season and the G League. See what he does at different levels. And, the jury's still out as far as my jury. You guys can start making opinions and stuff like that. But I want to give him the chance first and stuff like that. I can tell you guys aren't very impressed with him so far, but we'll have to see. G saying, honestly, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I skipped way ahead. Oh wow, there's a lot here. I'll catch up with everything. I honestly don't know. Where is that? Holy crap. I didn't see. You guys are way ahead. I'm going to have to start scooting quick. All right. I honestly don't know. I don't see Gary coming off the bench, to be honest. Having Fred and Gary space the floor, allowing Scotty, Pascal, and OG to operate seems nice too. Trust whatever they decide. Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't about Scotty even starting last year, and Nick was adamant, and other fans were adamant Scotty needs to start, and they were right. I was wrong. So that's why I'm learning, like, with the starting lineup for the Raptors. What I want and what I care is not going to be like always right, and I can be proven wrong a lot. And this may be an area where we may not be exactly right as far as like trying to force Precious into the starting lineup right at the beginning of the season. That we need things to just kind of happen the way they're supposed to over the course of the year. And it may end up working that way. That's the thing. We got to be flexible. And I'm a big proponent of like seniority and guys that have spots that they keep them until they lose them for a good reason. And Gary hasn't lost his spot for any good reason at this point. That he deserves to start, and he proved it last year as being a very solid two-way player and stuff like that. So Joseph's saying, I agree, fellas. We aren't hating Freak. Don't get mad at us for critiquing our bench. All these man crushes on Harper Jr. I don't get it. I like him. I think he's going to be good. The thing is I'm just a very supportive Raptor fan that I will get behind guys and believe in them right away and push them like crazy. Like Paul Heyman would push Brock Lesnar. I push them. I'll push them. I'll push them. I'll build them up and stuff like that. But I can see what you guys are saying, that he hasn't really impressed. You're right. He hasn't really done anything astounding or anything, but he needs some chance to get a chance to do it. Top saying, watch the VC Lowry interview. I miss Lowry. I don't like when people make the Lowry Fred comparisons because Lowry is on a higher tier and it's not close to me. Well, that's not what Lowry feels like, and neither does Nick Nurse. Like, they both really see, like, it's so cool how Lowry did this, like how he gave the keys to the car to Fred VanVleet, as far as like, it's your team now. And the way he described it in that interview about how he knew it was his time to let his young little brother up into his spot, and then he would move on gracefully and allow Fred to take the spot. Now, I know that you think that they're not close, but they are in some ways. They really are. Kyle really showed a lot to Fred. And, a lot of people are so down on Fred right now, and they're still down on him. He was hurt at the end of last season. And I know the last thing we remember is what we remember the most. But he's the same player that he was before that. When he's not hurt, he is a special player. In fact, NBA GMs and coaches, if they rank players in the league that they have a hard time dealing with, or players that are just really tough to play against, Fred VanVleet's in the top 25 in the league, guys. And that's on the down low. People don't realize that Fred does so many special things for the Raptors. And a lot of it's intangibles and uncelebrated kind of stuff that we just don't actually always pick up on. Fred's really important. And, that's the whole thing with stuff like that. I know that it's a weird comparison, but they really are like a very similar kind of player in some ways, like undersized point guard who's gutsy, who's strong, who can take a lot of physicality and has a physical side of their game and stuff like that. In some ways, I think Fred's more steady than Kyle. Kyle's, especially right now, presently, Kyle is not the same player he was in the championship run at this point in his career. He is half of that. Some games he doesn't score at all. Some games he totally disappears. He does things on the court that piss people off, like taking a shot too early in the shot clock, or just coming down and taking in, those kind of things used to piss me off. Well, Fred does that kind of stuff to a degree also. But to me, Fred's more steady and dependable in some ways than Kyle. So they're different players. And I know you don't like that comparison, but it is fair. And Kyle makes the same comparison, and so does Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse will make the same comparison between those two guys. And Kyle says he's his little brother. He loves him so much. He roots for us. He roots for the Raptors to be successful. He wants us to win again. If he's not going to win a championship in Miami, he wants the Raptors to win it. He said that in Vince's thing. He's very much rooting for us still. He loves his little brothers, Pascal, OG, Fred, Chris Boucher. These are his guys. All right, let's see. Duke saying, it was cool watching the Rico Hines video drops. I love the raps versus raps segments. Yeah, it was cool seeing Malachi cross up Scotty Barnes or them guarding each other and doing different things. Cool to see OG there. It's cool to see Thad Young there, Chris Boucher, all those guys showing up and doing stuff on the court out there. There's been a lot of fun. Lolita saying, both Vince and McGrady did not win the chip, correct? Karma, maybe? Laugh out loud? Yeah. No, that's true. Neither one of them did. Tracy didn't even make it past the first round for most of his career. I think maybe did Tracy win with San Antonio? He might have won a chip just like by being at the end of the bench with the Spurs in one year, but I don't think so. I'm going to look this up really fast. I don't think Tracy did win. And they say they regret it that they didn't try and do it and stay here and win it, and they didn't, and they could have, but they didn't. All right, let me see. Does Tracy have that on his list of accomplishments? No. Tracy never won a championship. He never won a championship. Vince didn't either. And they're both in the league for a long time. They could have. All right, let's see. Top saying, is Masai waiting to see if Fred is still healthy? That's why he hasn't locked him in yet. Apparently, he just started his rehab after resting for a couple months. No, that's not true. Fred's been working out this whole summer. And he's been playing. He's been doing things. He was rehabbing right away, right afterwards. He did rest a little bit, but he was rehabbing. I seen pictures of him in a pool right after the end of the season, working in the water to keep him off his knee in a way to be able to work out and not have the weight on his knee is by being in the pool and like lifting the heavy medicine ball in the water. That was the way he could work out still and stuff. But he's been working this whole summer. And like we've seen clips recently of him like shooting the ball and stuff like that. I don't know. The thing about the extension is going to happen when it's supposed to. Like once again, the way that they dealt with Kyle with his moving away from being in Toronto was very communicative and together the whole time. They're doing the same thing with Fred. He has the same kind of relationship with Masai, so he knows exactly when it's going to happen, and they probably already figured most of it out. It's just that the perfect time to do it. It may be after this free agency period's over. It could be that they're still waiting to see if Kevin Durant's going to get moved, see if there's any kind of shakeup in the free agency and trades and stuff like that, and they can be opportunists. So they're trying to keep light to move quickly in the period of time before training camp right now, just in case something happens where they want to make it an opportunity. And that may be holding off on the extension for Fred. It's not signing Koloko or Banton yet. That's part of it too, and stuff like that. Those are the kind of things that I think that's really the main reason why they haven't done the extension with Fred right now. It has nothing to do with whether they want to do it or not. They want to do it. It's just a timing thing with the salary cap and the way they're trying to do their budget for this season with the personnel they may bring in and stuff like that. Because we could see Carmelo Anthony in a Raptor jersey all of a sudden. Not that I want that, but I think it would work. But that is still in the realm of possibility as far as things. Like we could switch things around still and all of a sudden have a whole other new player after Gabe Brown show up and be a part of our team this year. And that's what it is. I think it's really they want to be flexible and moving towards anything like that just in case. All right, let's see. Joseph Stark saying at G, the metrics on Gary are actually terrible. He only exceeds on deflections. He's a streaky shooter who is undersized at the 2. So tell me, why don't you see him coming off the bench? Was like I was saying, it's his psyche. It's like we don't want to mess with his confidence. Really realize that this is what they did to him in Portland, that really jerked him around and didn't get the best out of him. That if we want the best out of him, and this may be the reason why we maybe wanted to trade him for Kevin Durant, is that maybe we are looking to move him, but we want him to look good and be good trade value. That he could end up being traded this year at some point. We don't want that necessarily. But, you're probably right. His metrics for offense are a little crazy. He's high volume, but he does show up huge for us and win games for us as the engine for our offense at times. So I'll take the good with the bad with him. He is very much a streak shooter. But maybe this year he's a little less streaky and he's more consistent. That would be really good. G saying he's tops in steals and deflections, and Precious, OG, Scotty, and Pascal may clog the paint. Then you have Fred on the outside. Precious will not be a more consistent shooter than Gary. This is true. We got to realize what the trade-off is with Gary versus Precious in the starting lineup kind of thing. Sometimes the starting lineup doesn't really matter in some ways. Precious may come in as the first sub and end up getting more minutes than Gary anyway. That's the whole thing. Sometimes we make a big deal out of it in some ways. Like we may want Gary in the starting lineup so we can try and get him going right away and get him scoring easy points for us right away and opening the floor up for everybody to operate easier because he's hitting shots from three right away, stuff like that. There's trade off. It's a trade off and a different look depending on if it's Precious or Gary. So, blah, 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 blah. All right, yeah. Let's see. Joseph Stark saying Gary gets beaten off the dribble and rim protection off his position is terrible. Precious, on the other hand, need I say more? Well, it just could be apples to oranges. It could be lineup matchup oriented. Why we play this player or this player because of the team we're playing and who they got and stuff like that. Monique saying, I didn't know DJ has a Filipino citizenship until I read it last night. I didn't know this either until this morning and I saw your post that DJ Wilson has some sort of Filipino heritage and that he is trying to get citizenship and that they were trying to get him to come play in the Filipino League this year if he didn't make an NBA team like he did with the Raptors. It could be that we cut him still and then he does end up being in Philippines. That's a good, interesting connection. Like, who knows? Him and Ron may bond because of their Filipino roots and stuff like that. I had no idea that he had that in his family. But that's great. That's good stuff. Monty Python saying, just imagine a 10-0 start for the Dinos. The league would shit. I want them to put that schedule out so we can see who the first 10 games are and see how likely or possible this could be. It could be really crazy. Monty's saying we could break Vegas. That'd be great. Vegas is Disney World anyway at this point. G saying Scotty thrives in the paint. Would like to see the paint open for him so he can operate. I want to see Precious slash into the rim. So think placing a wing or center would give Precious more room. I like Gary in the lineup to help Scotty have more room to operate than Precious. Like Precious may clog things up a little bit more and make it harder. That's one of the things where Gary likes to operate and move around. He can probably open the floor more up and allow Scotty to do more stuff and stuff like that. I see it that way. That Precious may take more space in the things that he likes to do and stuff like that. Gary's more likely to be out of the way or be a good outlet and things like that. If we're talking about that kind of stuff. Let's see. Duke Rock saying, G, I think it's more about positionless mostly. I want the Raps to run 4 bigs and 1 guard. In regards to clogging up the paint, I think we'll have a ton of versatility with that squad. It was crazy, like watching Nick Nurse run the drills with the Hungarian kids and his course. He's like telling them, the big man, all right, when you guys run the floor, the center, you run to the basket, but don't stand right underneath the basket. When you get there, get out of the way and move to the side. And he's exactly talking about clogging the lane and how much you need to keep it open so that the driver or somebody else wants to come in to get the basket. He was really getting on this Hungarian kid for not getting out quick enough. He's like, you run right up there and run to the basket in the fast break, but run to the side, run out of bounds, run out of the way because the guy next to you may have the ball and he's trying to come in and then double back and then try and rebound whatever they put up is what he's telling the big man on how to deal with not clogging the lane and stuff. That was really interesting to me. And this was really important to him. Like he yelled at that kid because he wasn't doing it properly. He's like, you can't do it this way. You need to get out as quickly as possible. You're in there too long. So this is something that he probably does with his guys too. He's like, you got to get right out of there and stuff like this. So you can't be any clogging. They won't let them do that. And I'm with you guys. I think the positionless scheme and having more of a positionless look on the court more often is a high priority for the Raptors in some ways. And that Fred in some ways doesn't take away from that. But other guys like Malachi could. I don't know about other people like Jeff Doughton and Ron Harper. We'll have to see how they work with it during the year and stuff like that. The versatility is a huge strength for us, huge strength. G saying, yes, positionless, but there are players whom are more shooters and slashers, need to work with their strengths and balance the lineup. Yeah, that's the thing I like about having somebody like DJ Wilson on our team. He's a more offensive oriented wing. We have so many guys that are defensive oriented, so different kind of things they do with their offensive game. And it really is true what G's saying. It's like Nick Nurse loves to play the piano before practice and after practice. Well, his team is a piano. He has different keys. And then if he wants to press that Pascal key for the spin moves and all that kind of stuff, he wants to press the OG key for his package on offense. That's what I'm saying. He's going to have different packages from the different wings with offense that he can implement for situations in which those guys have skills or tools in their bag for that situation is more likely to do. That may be part of how he decides the minutes and who's playing what is by their skills in their tool bag. And if DJ Wilson can hit open threes and do a couple of little post moves and get offense, he may get played more because we need offense at that time. If we need a better rim protection or better defense down low, then Kem might get played more or something like that. It's that kind of thing. He's really feeling the game, feeling the needs of what's needed at that moment, and putting in guys for that reason and stuff like that. So Starks is saying Precious shooting in the playoffs or Gary shooting in the playoffs. We know who was better. In second half, Precious, and second half, Gary. Again, Precious as far as 3-point better. Gary was sick. Gary should not have been playing in game 1 and 2 against Philadelphia. His stats are horrible because they're mired by how bad he was from being sick. Once again, we can't look at anything that Gary and Fred did against Philadelphia in this playoff series as being them truly themselves. You can't look at their stats. You can't look at the way they chased Maxey. You can't look at how ineffective Gary was in game 1 and 2 because he was not his normal self. And that we need to see them in that kind of way and stuff like that. Precious was fantastic in the playoffs. His numbers did go up from the regular season. He had more points. He shot better. He did a lot of different things better. But that's just, every player has ebbs and flows in their energy and how they're playing in the game. They have better parts of the year, but worse slumps and stuff like that. And it's where you hit them. Chris Boucher was fantastic against the Philadelphia 76ers in the first round. Precious was great. Other guys didn't do as well. It's just the ebb and flows of being a player in the league and stuff like that. So G saying, because there was no defense in Precious because I expected it. If he continues to shoot, they will scout him. That is such a small sample size. In my opinion, Gary had 5 games with 30-plus points. Gary had huge games during the season. He's capable of this. He's a valuable weapon. Once again, we got to look from an abundance standpoint, not a scarcity standpoint. We have a lot of good players, and there's enough for everyone. Scotty is a bonus kind of player that gives an uptick to everybody else around him without taking away from them. He can have an improved game this year, and everybody else can improve around him because he's that kind of player. We need to think this way in general. That just because Gary, we can't give Precious something to take away from Gary. We don't want to do that. We want to just give to everybody because there's abundance. And that sometimes the way we make these arguments or these discussions about Precious versus Gary is from a scarcity mindset. And we can't do that. We got to think of abundance and just mushrooming and building on top of building on top of building on top of building. It's like Scotty builds his game. It builds Pascal's game indirectly. That kind of stuff is what I'm talking about. That's what they want to do more with the team and stuff like that. We should think that way as fans and stop trying to put verses and like, oh, it's got to be this person or this person. Jeff Doughton versus Malachi. Gary Trent Jr. versus Precious. None of that. The camp battles and the competition for spots and roles and minutes on this team will get figured out. And Nick Nurse will dole it out and figure out who is actually getting what and stuff like that. So let's see. David's saying we should change our mascot to a bird instead of a dinosaur. All about the wingspan. A new Minotaur. Yeah, he was like, I'm in a labyrinth and you see a Minotaur. Yeah, pretty dorky stuff there. But yeah, I don't know. Raptors are also birds. A hawk or an eagle. These are all raptors, technically. That if you have the claws and the talons, you are a raptor. And we could do that switch. That is something that we could do someday. If we really wanted to, we could change our mascot to a bird and it would totally fit the name of our team still. It's a very interesting idea. I've thought about this myself at times, but I really like where we're at with it. I think the dinosaur is kind of important to the iconography of the Toronto Raptors franchise. So, but that's an interesting idea to do. And if we really wanted to do a strong rebrand for some reason or another, that is an avenue we could actually explore. Yeah, a new Minotaur. You guys like that? I don't know. I get all crazy with my sayings and stuff. That just showed me where I was with where you guys and stuff like that. So I need to catch up. Lolita saying, what a problem for Nick Nurse. All that athletic, talented young players to choose from. Oh my gosh. Oh, what a horrible life Nick Nurse has. The man's so charmed and so happy. Listen, it really is that he earned this spot. Like he toiled in so many different weird places internationally in different leagues. And, he's been a head coach since he was 23. And now he's like 50. And that means he's coached for almost 30 years. And he did not have it so good like he did in Toronto. This is the best. This is like he paid his dues. He's gone through the fire. He's been in all kinds of situations, had all kinds of heartache and problems and stupid shit happen to him in his career. And now he's in that cushy, badass job that is just so good, like where he gets really fun toys to play with as players, and that he has a head office and a owner that really believes and encourages and gives him what he wants. That's a dream job Nick Nurse is in now, but he truly earned it. That he went through the fire, went through all of the tough times, coaching internationally, coaching in England, coaching it all over the place, all different levels, whether he's coaching in the D League, whatever it was, he really, really earned it. And I love that he has this problem now, that he is, oh my gosh, who am I going to play? So many good players. It's so good. Monty's saying defensive player of the year added to an already stifling defense. Yeah, it could be. Coloco could end up being a defensive player of the year at some point in his career. That he was a defensive player in the NCAA player of the year. He can be an NCAA, he can be an NBA player of the year too. Duke Rock is saying they're interested in U.S. market viewers because of the advertising dollars. Media giants dread a Canadian team in the playoffs, let alone winning a chip. See, I love this. I'm anti-corporation in my general life. I feel like corporations are ruining the world right now. That they're fucked. They have too much power. They have too many politicians in their back pocket. The Raptors are a thorn in the side of big corporations in the United States. Hell yeah. Let's keep doing it. Let's fuck them up and make them pissed off. The mega corporations are mad when the Raptors win championships. That is a good thing. So hey, put some more fire, put on the fire. So make me burn to be wanting to win more championships because we're hurting American corporations. Hell yeah, I'm all about that. Let's do it. Yeah. All right, let's see. Monique saying, can we stop being so negative on Ron? Reminds me when y'all are down on Pascal. I'm with her. I'm totally on Monique's side. Like, this isn't necessary. We don't need to sewer Gary. We don't need to sewer Ron Harper Jr. There's none of that that's necessary at this point. There's no reason to do this. And that I'm with Monique on this. Monty's saying, Coloco's modus operandi and what he's all about. I think I know that he's going to be blocking a lot of shots and then hopefully getting some putbacks. Once again, if you watch the Rico Hines half-hour clip, you'll see Pascal smile real big when he sees Coloco cleaning up some buckets and putting baskets back on offensive rebounds. Very, very smart. Pascal's like, I like this guy. You can tell he really likes him. Peter says, Big Four is the best player to build around as he allows the team to build using whatever pieces are available. He's great at any spot on the court. There's a lot of added bonuses within him too. Like if I go back to the whole idea of like a RPG kind of trading card game, like Magic the Gathering, if you get that Scotty Barnes card, it has some bonuses and synergy and stuff like that. One of the things that Scotty card will give you is team chemistry and camaraderie and friendliness and happiness, because he is one of these guys is no teammate left behind. He is all about celebrating and supporting every single guy on the team. He's a really good teammate. And like he loves his teammates. Like watching Scotty on Twitch this summer, he has spoken about how he loves OG. He's spoken about how much he loves Fred. He's spoken how much he loves Chris, how much he loves Pascal. He loves all these dudes, and he really does. And this is the cool thing about it. You see how he's bonded with Mount Verde high school teammates like Cade Cunningham, people like Jalen Green that he played with in different places. They're like his brothers. Well, his first team in the NBA will always be the Raptors, and the team, hopefully it'll be his only team for his whole career. And the guys that he played his rookie season with last year will always have a special place in his heart. That like OG and these guys that he really enjoys. And the other thing is, listen, Scotty's at a level now. It could have been said, I guess, in high school, just because he was playing with such a talented high school team around him. But he's at a level now where there's so many guys on his team that are very equal in talent and athleticism and crazy good like skills, that it must be fun for him. That in some ways, like, at different levels, Scotty probably had to carry a lot of the water and be the man and be like the overpowering player on the team. He doesn't have to do that. He can fit in with a collective that all kind of does that together and stuff like that. And Peter's talking about when I said I would build around Scotty going forward out of any player in the league. I believe this. And the reason why I believe this is because his potential is really, really crazy. Like we have no idea, like the heights that Scotty Barnes can go in his career. Like how many championships could he go and take in his career because he wants to, and because he's on a team that is allowing him the best chance to go get as many championships as he wants. And that's what we want to see. Duke Rock's saying, we'll see, G, but I feel Precious over Gary Trent Jr. because of the vision Webster started last season. Well, I don't think that Gary doesn't necessarily not fit vision 6'9". That in some ways he does kind of fit in a positionless scheme. We can get away with playing him in there and stuff like that. But he can't, it's not his thing to lose at this point. I think we'll have to see what Nick Nurse's philosophy is with Gary and how he wants to use him. You know, who's going to start? We don't know. I think it'll be the same as last year, though. G saying if once the scout Precious and put some serious defense on him and he can be consistent under that, then yes. I just don't judge because Gary demanded a lot of defensive pressure after his streak. So what G's saying is basically Precious is unknown. A lot of what he's doing right now, he can get away with. It's kind of like being a rookie pitcher in the MLB. You can have your stuff your first season because nobody's seen you. But once they have a scouting report on how you like to pitch, you're easier to hit in your second year in the MLB. Well, this is a similar kind of thing with Precious. Then once they learn more about his tendencies and actual like abilities and what's possible with him, they may treat him differently, and that may change how well he does and stuff like that. And that's what G's saying, that he wants to see if he can be consistent once they are actually focusing on him. That we've seen Pascal at different levels, whether it's Kawhi is playing next to him, Kawhi's gone, you're the man. Now they're all focusing on you. You're getting doubled and triple teamed. How do you deal with that kind of attention? And in some ways, Precious hasn't really gotten that much focus because he's been an unknown and not somebody they've expected too much to explode offensively. And G wants to see if he can handle it when they're actually trying to like scout him. They have a scout and they know what to do to try and stop him, stuff like that. So Monique is saying that Jalen Harris is on Scarborough's team still and playing in the playoffs right now. Okay, good to know. Duke is saying, agree. Precious has to earn it. Nothing's given. Gary is the incumbent. Yeah, that's the way I look at it. We'll see if it shakes out that way. It could naturally happen this way. That may be what happens. But let's not get ahead of things. Gary is still in good faith. That's his spot to keep and to hold on to. He's got to lose it. That's what's got to happen. It may not happen that way, though. It could end up being that Gary is just a guy for the year. Joseph Stark saying Gary is more consistent or maybe on the same level as second half Precious, in my opinion. Playoff version of both, Precious shines again. I listen, we cannot gauge Gary for anything with Philadelphia. He had to be healthy coming in. I'll say that over and over again and stuff like that. Peter S. is saying Raptors will get mainstream U.S. media when we start winning chip after chip, which will happen soon enough. I believe this too. I think Peter's right. There's money to be made in the U.S. off the Raptors. They just got to figure out how to rig it so that it's mostly going there. I don't know. G's saying Gary took a lot of defensive pressure on him after his streak, allowing others to have more space. This happened to Pascal when he became a first option. Players need time to adjust. Yeah, I think that Gary's the kind of player that can make his own open shot, and that's super valuable in our team. There's not a lot of guys that are very good at creating their own shot or making room by themselves, not playing off other guys, and being able to make room for a shot by themselves. That is a really huge weapon and a really good skill that he has. We don't have very many players on our team that are good at that, and Gary is. So there's different things. It's different looks, really. Peter S. is saying, and the Big Four is the face of the league. Yeah, I could see Scotty becoming more and more of a mainstream superstar in this league, like Luka, like Giannis. It's just they got to allow for it and allow him to do that here in Toronto and not discount him just because he's here and stuff like that. G saying, regardless, I trust whatever Nurse and his team decide. Yeah, we got to. I mean, we're not the power players. We're not the ones in charge. We can have opinions and think this is what they should do and stuff like that. But really, I'm more of a reactor. I'm not trying to tell them how to do things. I'm not telling them who to draft. I'm not telling them who to like start or anything like that. It's more I react to what has happened and talk about it afterwards, whether it worked or not. And like a lot of this is speculating going into this season right now. We don't know what the look and what we're going to do with our team and how we want to do it. this season right away. We'll have to see. We'll find out soon enough, but we'll have to see. Peter S is saying, I'm so happy VC is not listed as winning a chip with the Raptors. I mean, in some ways, it would have been nice. It would have been poetic to have him on the 2019 team, win his championship with Toronto after all this and stuff like that. It may have closed some wounds. It may have fixed things with us, but it didn't happen. And that's too bad. And maybe there's another regret there that Vince didn't try harder to make it happen. Lowry said they wanted to happen. He wanted to happen, but why didn't it? If he really wanted to happen, I don't think Vince actually did want to come back here. I think he's saying that now. I think it's easy for him to say that right now, but I don't think he actually did. I don't think he actually did really want to come back here. He's saying he did, but I don't believe him. Let's see. It's crazy to me as top. It's crazy to me how we had a top 5 talent in the league in VC and he couldn't attract other talent to sign here. It's to what you said, Alexi. He never thought he could win, so we didn't. Yeah, he didn't have it in his head. Like Vince came here and he's like, this is Toronto. It's like, whatever. They're not going to have a chance to win ever. And he really believed that. And that's a problem. That's a problem. And the other thing is, like, listen, there was kind of like an underlying theme about Toronto and the franchise here in Canada that the players had in the league. Nobody really wanted to play here. They kind of looked at it as like Siberia. Like you're getting sent away to the cold tundra away. And like, it's not an attractive place. This is part of all the myth and the things that were built on this. Well, certain players perpetuated this. Vince Carter did, Chris Bosh did, Jalen Rose did. And the one common factor, I talked about this on that Jalen Rose stream I did a couple weeks ago, is Jalen Rose. That in some ways, Jalen Rose was a vet. He was around. He showed up on the Raptors. And when he showed up on the Raptors, that may have coincided with when Vince stopped trying for us. That Vince and Jalen played on the Raptors together as teammates. And Jalen may have showed up not wanting to be here, brought all his baggage, saw as a vet. He wasn't not respecting the team from the inside. And that was a role model for Vince at that time. So Vince was like, well, why am I even trying? So he quit playing and he admitted it. And then he left. Jalen stuck around after that. And he was still being a problem on our team, a toxic person, because he was still on the team when Bosh showed up. And when Bosh showed up, he passed that kind of mentality onto him also. Kind of like, don't take this team seriously. You guys will never win a championship. You know, you can't be on an NBA team and think that your team has no chance to win it. Why are you fucking even there? It's like OG said, I don't shoot to miss. Why are you playing to not win? That's the thing that's the flaw in the whole thing. You just wanted to show up and play and have a good time, make friends, and make some money. You didn't care about winning. And that's the real tell I got from Vince and watching that interview with him and Kyle. He never gave a shit about winning a championship. He didn't think it was realistic or possible here in Toronto. So think about that. They lose to Philadelphia by Vince's shot at the last second. They don't go on to the next round. Philadelphia goes all the way to the finals and plays the Lakers. What if we had been the team in the finals against the Lakers and our number one guy, our superstar, and deep down inside, it's like, I can't beat Kobe. I don't think I can beat them. It's the Lakers. The Lakers are a real championship contender. We're the Raptors. We're not really a championship team. That's the way Vince thought. That was his mindset in his head. He just gave it away. Listen to the interview with Kyle. It's so fucking stupid. And that's immediately right there. And that's the thing. You have guys like Vince go to New Jersey, Bosh go to Miami, and they perpetuate it after they left. They said, yeah, Toronto sucked. For this reason, we had horrible GM. The coaches were awful. It was cold up there. There were taxes. There was customs. Why would anybody else want to come and play for us? They didn't make it more attractive. They left when they could. And that's what I'm saying. They didn't leave a good, long-standing culture. They hurt our culture, and they made it worse. And it took what Masai did with Kyle and DeMar and the commitment and the loyalty that they showed in building something bigger than themselves. Bigger than just them, because it's stayed since then. And that's the difference right there. Joseph Stark saying, gee, to you, love for Gary's 5-game streak. One word, Linsanity. Yes, Gary played great during that streak, but metrics don't lie. Now, that's an interesting comparison. Linsanity to what Gary did with that streak of 30-plus games. I don't think it's comparable though. Gary's a different player than Jeremy Lin. Jeremy Lin may have caught fire and captivated the city of New York when Linsanity happened. This is a totally different kind of thing with Gary. This isn't like a once in a lifetime shot in the dark kind of streak of games. This is a streak that Gary can duplicate at different times in his career over and over again. That he could have another 5-game, 30-game point streak this season. In fact, I predict if anybody's going to get 50 points in a Raptor game soon, it's going to be Gary Trent. I think he's the one who's most likely that's going to score a next 50-point game. If it's not Fred or Scotty somehow, some crazy way, it'll be Gary that scores the next 50-point game for us. And that's not totally the best comparison, Jeremy Lin and Linsanity, to what Gary Trent did last year, because he can do it again, and he will. He showed signs of it in Tampa in the little bit of the part that he played for us the first half of the season that he played for the Raptors. So, all right, let's see. Top of Talk saying, it reminds me of when DeRozan basically said in a post game that he couldn't beat LeBron, and he always alluded to how LeBron left after he was traded, so Raps could have won without the Kawhi trade. Now, DeMar's going to say that. I don't remember him saying that he could never beat LeBron. I mean, that's true. We did see that, but I don't think that he ever said like that he could never, ever beat him. I think he truly believed that he could probably figure it out and beat him at some point, but because I don't think he limited himself like that and things like that. Now, that trade, I don't think that it would have worked with DeMar on the team, that Kawhi needed to be here. And that the difference is that Kawhi was such a defensive player that it really changed the whole attitude of our team, having him be the focal point, number one guy, and his commitment to defense and his skills at defense. That was the difference between him and DeMar. The DeMar had limitations defensively in certain ways, and also offensively to getting a certain place. I don't like dumping on DeMar. Once again, this is not trying to be negative towards Raptor players or former Raptor players stream, but it is true. DeMar had some offensive problems that didn't translate to the playoffs, and that we needed to make a change to get to the next level. And I don't believe this. I don't think that if we had not made the trade that DeMar would have been just as successful on the team the next year as Kawhi. I don't believe that. I don't think that's true. And I don't think it's true that if we'd kept Casey, it would be the same thing. We would have continued to run in the same direction and do kind of a similar thing. And it wouldn't have been helpful in our progression to winning towards the championship if we had kept Casey and DeMar. We did exactly what he needed to do, and Masai was gutsy enough to do it. That was really gutsy, so gutsy. Top saying he never thought he could be. Yeah, I don't know. He never did, but I have a hard time thinking that DeMar tells himself, I could never beat LeBron himself. He never said that to himself. He just never did in reality, but I don't think he ever had it in his mind that he was limiting himself. I just will never beat LeBron. I just will never beat LeBron. I don't think he thought that way. G saying it's not just about metrics. We need a balanced lineup for spacing. Again, Precious had open range to shoot his threes. Barely any D on him because no one expected it. Also, metrics can change. Yeah. Guys, once again, I don't want to do too many arguments like this and stuff like that because it's not really fruitful in any kind of way. It's kind of just opinion in some ways. And we can have differences, opinions, and what we think would work better and stuff like that. And we could all be right. We don't know. Duke Rock's saying, I've never understood why the NBA is so hung up on who starts. For me, it comes down to who's closing out the game. 6 men can have starter minutes. Exactly. I'm with Duke on this completely. That, it's more a prestige thing. It's more like a thing where they make a big deal out of it. I mean, they have the different things like maybe your contract, you get paid different if you're a starter or bench. It could be like, a perception thing and stuff like that. I think it's true. The most important thing is who closes the game, who is playing in the game when it matters. And you don't have to start necessarily to be that guy and stuff like that. Joseph's saying, NBA schematics is not the same as high school Canada. Players have to be in specific spots. So clogging wouldn't happen unless player isn't following his assignment. Yeah. All right. I'm not going to get too bogged down in you guys' back and forth here right now. We'll try and move on. Tom Duke saying new Rico Hines video out 15 minutes ago. Okay, there's a new Rico Hines. I better get off here so I can go watch it. Joseph Stark saying, also remember, Kyle Lowry clogged the paint. So did Fred and OG, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, we're all going to look at that after this. Thanks for the heads up, Tom. Let's go. G saying Scotty thrives in the paint. Having Precious as a shooter mostly takes away strength. He's a slasher, dunker, rebounder. I feel Gary and Precious are so different. Yeah. Tom Duke saying, watching and listening to Lex. What a great morning. Dap to Tom Duke. I'm glad you're having a good Sunday. G saying, and we do need some shooters pulling defenders in the perimeters. Gary is something that we don't have enough of. Like that's one of the things I didn't like about the Kevin Durant deal with him in it is like we're giving up one of our better shooters and somebody who can fill up the net from shooting and stuff like that. That's a strength that we need more of is shooting. Fred can be better shooter this year, more shooter. Scotty and Pascal shoot a better percentage. All this stuff will contribute to all that. Joseph Stark saying players are following schemes. Let's be reminded we are not position. We are positionless. That means we operate on spots and counter spots. Not let's go do whatever we want. Actually, there's some truth to both of what Joseph's saying. It's actually we are allowed to do whatever we want at some points. This has been revealed by Nick Nurse in Hungary. He said that he really looks at basketball as being like freeform jazz. And that to allow for that spontaneity and like improvisation, like Scotty taking the little baby left hook that he didn't know he could do, you have to allow a system that has system rules and ideas, but they are allowed to play within it and do whatever they want. This is actually true. Nick does let the players do whatever they want to a degree. And this may be part of the reason why we've had frustrations with Pascal and Fred in the past, because they have been able to do whatever they want and they failed at times when they tried to do whatever they want. And it's looked weird because it doesn't look like it's within our system when they do that. But that's because Nick Nurse does allow for them to do what they want. It's really weird. It's like there's a system, you got to follow the rules of the system, but within the rules of that system, you are allowed to do whatever you want. I know that sounds crazy and counterintuitive, but this is part of how Nick Nurse doesn't let the other team predict what we're going to do. He realizes that if you do very strict game planning and have rules and have that, you become predictable. And that if you allow the ability to improvise in your players, that is how you can get around this being predictable. And that's truly why he does this. He highly values this as a coach. In fact, that's why he played the whole clip of John Coltrane playing jazz to the Raptors playing clips, highlights, and them doing what they want and not doing it within the system. He did a whole clip on that and teaching them this specific coaching philosophy he has. Sure, have a system, have expectations and rules. They break rules, they get in trouble, but then also have an ability for them to be creative also is what he's saying. Tom Duke's saying Eagle is the name of the defensive style. I totally see it now. So appropriate. He counts them. He has the Eagle stats. He says, how many Eagles are you going to say? If you see Nick Nurse yelling Eagle on the baseline of the sideline of the game this year, you'll know he's yelling at them to get it spread out if he's saying that. DJ saying, I don't know if Harper overweight or not, takes conditioning to play that Raptor style of defense, but I welcome a heavier set guy that can body up against big men and take it strong to the basket. I'm with DJ on this one too. In fact, that was one of the attractive things about Ron Harper Jr. when he showed up. He has some chunk. He has a little bit of weight to throw around. It's like a little bit different than what we have. Scotty's the closest to it. Like in some ways, Ron Harper Jr. looked like a shorter Scotty to me because he had the same kind of size and frame to throw around weight in the game already. And I like that. I don't necessarily want him to lose his weight. I want him to convert it into muscle. If Ron Harper Jr. can be just as heavy, but he's stronger, that's better in some ways, because part of the reason why he's so successful at Rutgers is he bullies people. He uses his shoulder and he pushes people off to make room and make shots. And we don't want him to lose his size by getting too much in shape, because that is actually part of the reason why he's special. And he does some of the things that he does so well is that he has weight to throw around. So there's a balance here. We want him to lose weight, sure, maybe, but maybe add muscle and keep the weight on. And maybe that kind of thing. I'm with DJ. I like this style of play. Like we saw the Kenny Lofton Jr., the way he bumped Chet around in Summer League, like boom, that's a big boy, Kenny Lofton Jr. It's like Charles Barkley kind of guy coming in the league, like 300 pounds, so round and big, but crazy athletic, crazy, able to get up and down the court, not slow, but size too. That's a special athlete. Like Charles Barkley was a very special athlete for his body type and size. You know, people get dissed Dusty Rhodes in wrestling because he was fat. And they're like, this guy's a fat, out of shape guy. Why do anybody like him? Well, he was a great athlete also. Just because he looked like a fat slob didn't mean he couldn't wrestle for an hour straight in the ring against Ric Flair. That's what I'm saying. These big guys can be good athletes, even though they look out of shape. And that's what I'll say about Ron Harper right now is maybe we want a little bit of that chunk because it's good weight for him to throw around. And maybe being a little bit looking like he's overweight is actually good in some ways, like Charles was, Charles Barkley. All right, let's see. G saying, yes, you still need players whom are shooters first and that are easy to defend. Players like Gary pull the defense out. It really is the spreading the floor. That when we saw Gary not involved in games, sometimes our floor spacing was really bad. I'm with G on like the floor spacing and the things that Gary brings for that. Like Precious doesn't necessarily bring that at this point with his 3-point shot. That they don't necessarily respect him on the 3-point line like they do Gary in some ways. And that's what we're saying, that he spreads the floor out, makes it easier for everybody, Gary Trent, when he's hitting his shot and stuff like that. So Joe's saying, go ahead, leave Precious open at the 3. They do that, and they did it last year. They may not do it as much this year, so we'll have to see. DJ saying, G, not sure if you're responding to my text or not, but Harper was drafted for his deep 3 potential. Yeah, he's going to be a middleman. He's going to be like a middle of the all around kind of guy. Like if you look at his stats from Summer League, he didn't do anything super great, but he did everything. He did steals. He got blocks. He rebounded. He got some assists. He made a couple shots. That's the way I look at him right now. He's a very in the middle. I was talking about Mario example earlier. The Mario on our team may be Ron Harper Jr. The average in the average team of the average, the whole all the way, you distill it all the way down, you get Ron Harper Jr. So, and this is the other thing, he's not drafted. He's going to be coming into this league with a purpose to try and carve out a niche as a role player in the league. And that doesn't mean that he's got to be a superstar or anything. I said this before. He could come in and just be a serviceable, like fill in, somebody who plays good defense, doesn't make any mistakes, makes good decisions, but he's not super flashy or super overpowering or anything like, wow, but he's steady. Let's just put it that way. Like he's steady all around. He can do a little bit of everything, but he's not doing a whole lot of one thing like really, really well. He's an all around kind of guy. That's the way I look at him. And he's a middle player. He's a 3. He's like, he can play a little bit of shooting guard. He can maybe get away with a little bit of power forward guarding, but he's really a 3. He's a small forward. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Alistair saying, Scotty is ridiculously strong, Black Hercules, NBA Finals lock. There's a lot of truth in that. There's a lot in that, what he's saying, and this is exactly true, though. He is a Hercules. He is strong, and that's going to be a huge thing for him. God forbid Scotty ever have any kind of injuries or anything. That he just stays strong and just is a badass and just gets stronger and stronger as the season goes. We saw last season. Other rookies were faltering, hitting the rookie wall. This man did not hit a rookie wall. He got stronger and stronger as the end of the season got closer, and he improved even more. And that's part of the reason why he closed out and won that Rookie of the Year. Because like other rookies were getting tired because there's a way longer season. They're getting beat up because it's a more physical NBA. Look at what our Roy did. Big Four was like taking it all. He's like, yeah, give me more. I'm ready for more. What? You motherfuckers are tired? You're beat down and stuff. I'm ready for more. He was like that this season. It's crazy. Alistair saying Svi will be better. I see him getting hot earlier this season. Remember, he's open a lot. Just needs to make them. Well, hopefully they will leave him alone because he's missed so many last year and makes them. We don't know if he's going to show up for sure. We don't know what's going to happen with him. We're just going to take it as it comes. And I'm rooting for Svi. I love comeback stories. And this would be a huge one. If the Svi can actually come back and impress everybody and make Raptors Nation completely fall in love with him, where he's some sort of weird legend, where it's like the seasons that he had with us, he had one really bad season, then boom, after that, he's just gangbusters. I really, really wish this for him. I want this so bad for him. Monique saying, did anyone see the Scarborough Shooting Stars OVO t-shirt jerseys? Pretty amazing. No, I haven't seen that, Mo. I'd like to see that. I'll probably find it after this. Good. Thanks for the heads up. David's interested in it too. Monique saying, has anyone picked up the Scotty Slam yet? I have not, but obviously we've all seen it. Some people are saying you try to order it, but it seems they got to get it shipped to a U.S. address. No, it's in stores. You guys should be able to find it on newsstands. If you can go and find an old magazine stand, you'll probably find the Slam there. Like maybe the Shoppers Drug Mart might be a good place to go check, guys. Scotty Slam is online. It's on Instagram. Check it out. David's saying, I was trying to get a few hard copies. Hard copies, my retirement fund. Yeah, that's a pretty smart investment. Kenneth Daniels is here. Good to see Kenneth. Raptors need size. Can Koloko be the guy? Can small ball win a championship? Everybody thinks we're playing small ball, but I don't think this is accurate to describe us. We're not playing small ball. We're playing a positionless scheme that doesn't necessarily utilize a center. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that when you don't have a center, like I still think Kem is a center. And Koloko is a center for sure. But when you have a lineup that doesn't have a center, like the regular starting lineup for the Raptors last year, Fred, Gary, OG, Pascal, and Scotty, you have some size in the lower parts of your lineup that are kind of bigger, especially if you're doing a positionless scheme. So I think it's a real misnomer when people try to say that we're playing small ball. And that small ball is not really actually like being used as much in a lot of places. Sure, maybe you could say what the Celtics did with small ball or the Warriors are playing small ball in the championship. And maybe that's what the answer is there. Like some people would say what the Celtics and the Warriors did in the finals was small ball. So there you go. Small ball won a championship this year. In some ways, the Warriors are a small ball team. They're more of a small ball team than we are. We're much bigger than the Warriors are. We're bigger than the Celtics. So I don't understand this whole perception that the Raptors, because of certain things, they think we're a small ball team. People even said this in the summer league. It's like, oh, the Raptors are playing small all the time. We're not fucking playing small. That's a total misnomer. We are playing big. In fact, we're playing so big that's going to be overwhelming to other teams. So I wouldn't call it small ball. I think that that's a really bad term for anything to be around the Raptors. And I think it's more positionless basketball. Can it win a championship? Hell yeah, I think they can. And I really do believe that and stuff like that. Now, as far as the size thing, we have tons of size. In fact, we're bullying teams with our size. You saw how many times OG got a small guard and he's getting a layup, just bullying guys and stuff like that. This is going to happen a lot this year. Scotty's a bully. OG's a bully. We got a lot of bullies on our team. And we don't necessarily, the size that Koloko gives us is up. As far as rim protection, as far as a little bit more length and a little bit more shot blocking. But he's not coming in to save us this year. This is not the thing that Koloko is going to do this year. He's a project. He's going to foul a lot. He may have a hard time staying in regulation NBA games because he may get like 3 fouls within 2 minutes. And he may have to go to the bench like right away and stuff like that. So Koloko's not the savior here. The savior is going to be within the guys that are already playing for our team. And we had good size last year. I really do feel like we had good size last year. It was Tampa. We didn't have any size. We were horrible in Tampa. But last year, we had a badass team. And I just don't like that term. Small ball is like James Harden Rockets 5 years ago. That's not us. We're nothing like that. You could maybe say the Warriors this year were a small ball team because they run Draymond Green at center. That's a small ball team. But we're not a small ball team. We have all power forwards. It's just like we don't play a center, but we have like 3 or 4 power forwards on the court at a time. That's not small. That's not small in any kind of way. All right, let's see. David's saying, well, Golden State is not. Yeah, see, he's saying exactly what I just said. Golden State did a small ball. David's saying we have a size, though. Yeah, see, David's kind of saying exactly what I was saying. Ken's saying 6'9" is not a rim protector in the NBA, but Koloko is. Koloko is a bona fide rim protector. In fact, Koloko's on the level. I maybe he's putting some lofty goals on him. He can have the impact in a game like Dikembe Mutombo used to. I can see it happening. Like as soon as he learns the NBA level and he's good, he's mobile, he can block shots and be that kind of an imposing threat around the rim for us that we haven't had. I can't even think of when the last time we had, maybe Keon Clark, somebody like that. Boucher's kind of like this, but he doesn't have the size. I'm talking about a guy who's actually able to guard centers. He's mobile enough and he's an amazing shot blocker. That's Koloko. And he will be this for us in the years to come. It's just don't expect him right away. It's going to be a development thing, but it could be this year. It could be next year. But, we'll see. That's what I'm saying. We definitely have a rim protector now for sure. And that's Koloko. It's just good. We're going to take some time with the project. DJ saying new rule suggestion during playoffs, coaches challenge, no timeout required. Double to 2 and 1 per overtime. Lastly, a rotated panel of refs, which remotely and judge, not same refs that made the call. Ooh, we talked about that a little bit last season about having refs away from the site and them kind of like watching from away and helping them decide. It's kind of like what the replay center does in Secaucus, New Jersey, but not totally. I don't know. I'm still all about like, and the MLB is talking about this automated umps. Like they're going to let the computers and the robots determine the strike zone. Well, we could get to that point eventually in the NBA where we don't have real refs, that we have automated refs that are all computerized, and that way we know that they're down the line and totally fair because they don't have the things that humans have, like predilections, discriminations, preferences, maybe emotions in the moment that may cloud the judgment of the calls on the court. Well, you have a computer, you have something that does it just down the line because it's a program and it's an algorithm, then you can get very fair reffing. And I think that the NBA could go towards that more and more and stuff like that. Some of the other stuff you're talking about, DJ, maybe it has to do with like not slowing the game down, stuff like that. I am going to do a special Sunday report in the weeks to come, maybe even next week, about the coach's challenge and when the best time to utilize it and how to utilize it in the best to get the most success out of it. We've seen different ways that Nick Nurse has used it, and there really is a science to using it correctly and getting the best results from using it. And maybe not wasting it too soon, but when is it to use it and actually get it used and not waste it for the game because you didn't use it, things like that, stuff like that. We'll look at it more. Let's see. Kenneth is saying LeBron is 6'9", 250. Golden State now has Wiseman. Yeah, they had Wiseman, but they didn't play him. I mean, we look at the playoffs. They really did say this during the finals that Boston and Golden State were both playing small ball. Like, who was the center for the Celtics? Robert Williams. He's a center, but he's also kind of a power forward. I think he's kind of in the similar kind of realm that like Cam is and stuff like that. So Wiseman was hurt. He didn't play in the finals. So they were really playing small ball with Warriors. DJ saying, I turned off 2 last Philly games as soon as refs took over the game. I will do it again this year. He doesn't want to see them railroading us and treating us bad. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. David's saying, Kenneth, he didn't play last year when they won the chip. Yeah, that's what I just said. David, and they improved their team with a center. So why did they get a 7-footer? I don't know what you guys are exactly talking about here. Wiseman's been kind of a bust, but he's shown something this summer. He didn't look good the first couple of years, him being around Golden State, but now this summer he's actually showing some promise. Finally, he's a project. That's the same thing. You draft any kind of 7-footer, they don't come in and automatically they're Evan Mobley very often. Evan Mobley is a very special case. But like, these other guys, they need to take time to adjust the NBA game and get better and stuff like that. And that may be part of what's happening with Wiseman. And I expect to happen with Koloko and stuff like that. So let's see. David's saying because he was the best player on the board that was available. If he was 6'8", they would have made the same choice. In the playoffs, the dominant Embiid was on the ground rolling around like it was a pumpkin patch. I like that statement. You cut it out right after I read it. Hilarious. All right, let's just see what Ken is saying. I agree. Raps have size. Thanks for clarifying for David. Yeah, all right, you guys. I'm not even sure if you guys are arguing or just kind of having a discussion. Duke's saying Koloko will be better than Rudy Gobert. I could see him being better than Rudy in certain ways, but we don't know. That's a lofty prediction there. Kenneth is saying, David, Alexi agrees that Koloko was a rim protector needed. 6'9" is not adequate rim protection. It's not about the best available for Golden State. Yeah, Koloko's the rim protector. I wish Chris was more of a rim protector, but he doesn't play underneath the basket anymore, so he can't really do that, and he never really developed into that. He's a different kind of shot blocker, but he would have been the closest one on our team recently. I mean, Precious, maybe. Listen, all right, actually, Precious could be a rim protector. We've seen Precious stand up to guys coming to the basket and block guys, challenge them when they come at them in the basket. It's basically the dude who can get up there. If somebody's trying to come in, like Yuta would stop a guy and get in the middle of like Anthony Edwards, even though he looked real bad. This is what I'm saying. Precious is willing to put his body in between a guy who's coming at the basket to dunk, and he can stop him and block him off. I've seen Precious do that before. So maybe Precious is also a rim protector. Also, we may need to give him those kudos also. And also, Scotty on the down low can block shots too. We need to realize more and more that Scotty is going to be a defensive force in ways we may not realize. All right, Monique thinks I've had an awesome stream day. I'm at 2.5 hours. Holy crap. 56 days ago. She's counting them down still. Kenneth's saying, at David, Embiid was a warrior and was playing like an MVP in regular season. Why slander? Well, we slander Embiid every chance we can. Fuck Embiid. Fuck that fucking big crybaby clown motherfucker. Hurting people, stepping on Scotty's ankle, hitting people in the face with his forearm, stuff like that. Yeah, fuck that guy. Kenneth saying, talking about this year, dude. All right, he took his messages away. David knows that maybe you guys got a little too in different ways. No reason to do that. Sue's saying, good morning, everyone. Wow, still on. That's great. Thought I missed you today. I know. I didn't even know why I'm on, Sue, right now. I should have been finished already. All right, let's go. All right, let's see. One more here. Duke's saying at Dave. Koloko will be able to guard the perimeter unlike Gobert. He can rim run for basket. He's working on shooting all the stuff Gobert can't do now. I'm really interested to see what Koloko can do with his baby hook and some of his offensive stuff. We can see he can shoot a three. He may have some good jumper stuff. There's some offensive stuff that Koloko will have that Gobert doesn't have. He may have range, is what we're saying. Like Gobert has no three-point range. Gobert has no range out or anything like that. But Gobert may end up being a better defensive player than Koloko in the long run. That may be the area where Gobert is absolutely better than Koloko in some ways, because maybe he has more weight to throw around in low posts and stuff. But offensively, I think Koloko could end up being a better offensive player than Gobert for sure and stuff like that. So Sue saying hi to everybody. Yeah, you guys got me on a marathon. Ken is saying Precious can block shots, but he can't block shots like a 7-footer. That is why the Raps got Koloko. Yeah. Kenneth's right in a lot of ways. We did not have a rim protector. It was on our list at the end of the year. We need a rim protector. Well, they go and draft Koloko, and that's a rim protector. But once again, he's not going to show up right away and be able to do it. We got to wait and be a little patient. But in the years to come, it's going to be nastier and nastier for the rest of the league. Whether Scotty getting more in tune with his teammates and really honing in and making a perfect team defense, whether it's Koloko getting better as an NBA center and being able to be used in more minutes on the NBA level and being that presence that's just lurking around, ready to block shots and come back. A guy may think that he's beat him and he's already to the rim and he comes from behind and he snatches it from behind still and blocks him, stuff like that. All right, guys. Thanks for being here. I hope you had a good day. Have a good day today and stuff like that. I think I got most of my points across about how to avoid being a dumpster fire. Avoid toxicity with your team. Have good rules. Like Nick Nurse's rules about dealing with the media, maybe some of the rules they have with the players unsaid that we don't even know about, like as far as what you can say in interviews and what you shouldn't say. Maybe partly it's like what you do on your social media. Like Scotty doesn't talk about certain issues or certain topics on his Twitch. People will bring it up and ask him questions. And I know that he could answer them, but he doesn't. And it's probably that they've been trained not to make things worse for themselves by saying something out of pocket or stupid, just off the cuff and stuff like that. So, all right, let's see. Ken is saying it will take time, but it will be better. Yeah, it'll take time. Koloko's going to take time. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. All right, guys. Once again, starts with your top. You need a good owner. You need an owner that stays out of things. And you need a good general manager, president that has a good vision and everybody works under and doesn't step on the toes and works with them. Then you need a coach that buys into it and has a shared vision with that GM. So that they're working in concert together to get the right pieces and the right kind of chemistry going on the team. And then you need to keep track of your character of your team and the players that you have, and that they get along and that they're fitting together and that they make sense together. And then you have to worry about the fan base. The fan base could be too toxic. It can cause problems for you. There's certain things about old franchises with their fan base. They're jaded. They have a hard time getting positive about their team in different ways, like we see with the Maple Leafs and stuff like that, because of years and years of losing. So you want to build that winning kind of culture and that belief that you're going to win. And sometimes if you have a lot of time of losing and having a hard time, that's a hard thing to pull out of and get away from and change that culture. That's why you do a rebranding of your brand. That maybe you go and change the Raptors to a bird logo because you've been so bad for so long. Maybe the Leafs need to shake some of this old Leaf mentality from their history from so long ago. Maybe they need to do an update, change the way that their jerseys look. Maybe they need to change the way they do things, because tradition can pigeonhole you into making bad decisions and not working in the future. Everybody wants tradition and things to stay the same in the world. Well, the world's changing, whether you like it or not. And the tradition of the Celtics in the 60s may not apply to today's game. The tradition of the Leafs and what they've done over the course of their history may not apply to what's happening now or be successful. And that you need to maybe let go of tradition to a degree to be successful in sports. That tradition may be actually part of the problem with why some of these storied, amazing franchises do poorly, is because of that stuff like that. All right, guys, have a great Sunday. I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm talking about the Pelicans game that we had in Toronto against the New Orleans Pelicans on January the 9th. We beat the Pelicans. It was our 6th win in a row. And we were still struggling and stuff like that. So we'll be looking at January 9th, 2022, Raptors versus Pelicans in that game and winning 6 games in a row and stuff like that. It'll be a Monday memory for tomorrow, January 9th. All right, guys, thanks again. Please subscribe if you enjoyed my stream today, and have a great Sunday. I'll see you guys tomorrow. All the best, and let's go Raptors. Let's build our guys up. Stay positive about them, and look at the bright side and expect good things from them. Expect them to win, because Vince never expected us to win, and that may have been his biggest fault. I say it. Yeah.